It's really funny. One of my notes about her is literally just, she died the way she lived, wasting my time. Quack.
Welcome to Little Duck Book Club with duck number 1,
Ren, and duck number 2,
Anna, and we are talking about the last book in the Grisha Trilogy that we've been looking at over the past few weeks, Ruin and Rising, again, by Leigh Bardugo. It'd be quite weird if they changed author in between for the last book. I don't know why I said it like that.
I love that you said that.
I love it. Yeah, me too. Love myself. No, it's just the weather frying my brain. Maybe before we go into this, what were your expectations? Because it is a reread for this last book. Because I think we talked about this in the previous videos.
Yes.
So let's get this out of the way.
My expectations were very low. I remember I binge read all the books when I first read them. And I couldn't really remember anything meaningful having happened in the third book.
Oh.
Except for Bagra's death. So I was like, what even is going to happen?
Yeah.
And then, a few years ago, I think I tried rereading them again because I was like, oh, I just read the fairy tale collection in the Grishaverse. Let's try again how I feel about it. And I didn't read the third one. I stopped after the second because I was like, wait, all the things I thought were fun already happened. I don't need to read this one.
That's
so I
really
expect
funny.
this to be a slog and, yeah, low expectations.
Well, same for me. I did remember all the important story bits that happened throughout, and then I was expecting it to drag a lot more than it did, until it just pulled the brakes, and it was the most slogging last 100 pages I've read in a while. But the expectations stayed the same with the reality of it. I also binge read the 3 books when I got them, because I got them in a box set and I just went through them. And I do remember really loving the first 2 books, and then the end of the third book just punched me in the face. So this time I was prepared for it, and a couple of scenes in the book made me downright angry, considering the end of the book.
Yeah.
There's some text passages there, and I'm like, okay. So if you guys are expecting a happy-go-lucky video, I guess you will not get it. Not this time. Because you both didn't like the book.
It's much rarer for you to dislike something, so you're setting the expectation. This is a haterade episode. We are drinking the evil Kool-Aid.
I'm joining your ranks. Yeah, no, because
yes,
because to me, there's
join me. I'm the Darkling.
Make me your villain.
Let's be evil together. Yeah.
I become a hater. No, there's just let's get this out of the way. I don't want to tease and trigger anybody by constantly being like, oh, the ending. Alina loses her powers at the end, and that is a thing that will keep me salty for the rest of I don't know how many minutes we're talking about this book.
Yes.
But to me, that's something that immediately disqualifies a story so fucking hard. I can like everything about it for the first 2 books, but if I get an ending like this, nah, I hate it.
I think losing powers can work as an ending, but not in what is ostensibly a YA girl power fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
There it just feels like, oh no, Alina, you were wrong. You don't have a big destiny. Your destiny is to be barefoot and pregnant at home with your man.
It does feel like it, does it not? It does feel
Like,
like it.
not quite literally, because I don't think they have any actual biological children in the epilogue, but, like, the vibes are extremely there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, Mal gets everything he wants, but it, at no point ever did I have the impression reading this that Alina likes children, likes taking care of children, or would want to spend her life raising children.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the ending is just like, oh, what do women like? Oh, women like to be homemakers and raise children. Of course.
She strikes me as any other person who does not have, as you said, a strong connection to children, but would still hate to see any harm come to a human, most importantly, like a young child, because they can't even fight back. That's the kind of
Yes.
person she strikes me at. Um, it feels more like I'm not saying it. I'm saying it. It feels more like Mel really wanted this, so they moved back. But this is all interpretation of my grudgy self. So.
I mean, it's because we don't really get her opinion on it ever. We
Mm-hmm.
just get told in the epilogue that that is what happened.
Yeah.
And I have seen, like, people talk about it in a more positive light as the idea of, you have given so much in a war and you have been harmed and you get to go home at peace. Like, you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
keep fighting, you get to
Yes.
just be you at the end of it. Like, there is a positive aspect to it, but on the other side, it just also. I don't know. I find the idea horrifying that you would learn of all the injustices and all that's wrong in the world, and you would have power to change it. And then you get stripped of that power, and you're supposed to forget about all of that. You don't get to influence anything
Mm-hmm.
anymore. You're
Mm-hmm.
just supposed to go home and never think of it again. And that doesn't strike me as a happy ending because I find it difficult to imagine for a character who was deeply involved in international politics to just be like, oh yeah, I'll just never think about all the shit show that I've seen. Oh, I don't have to worry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, girl,
Yeah.
do you not want. How could you let that go, right?
Yeah. The thing is, she does say that she would like to, for it to actually, like several times, she's like, I would like to just run away, just be with Mel, just be, like, safe in a little cottage, whatever. She does mention this, but, like, one sentence after that, every single time she's like, but I can't. Not because she's the sun
It,
summoner, that she sometimes also says that, but what she says every time is because now she knows like what she's fighting for and what she has to change and what has to change in the country, as you just said, right? So it's not even like the problem isn't just simply gone. We see this in the end where Nikolai is like, okay, just recovered from being a bat. Guess I gotta go and become king and do my stuff. There is still shit going on. She's
and
just I get
I
what people
think,
mean with like the positive aspect, but
right, but I also feel like it's incongruent with the story we have seen play out, because a recurring motif in these books is that Alina runs away to live a cottagecore life with Amal, and it goes wrong every time because there are problems you cannot outrun. The collapse of your country is not something you can hide from in
yeah,
the countryside. So, if you know it's happening, and you know you can't really escape the consequences, how is it a positive ending for anyone to be further away from a position where you can have a positive influence on what's happening? Like, it just, to me, it just does not ring as a happy ending on any level. I can see that where some people find it satisfying or positive, and that's great for them. I don't think that's a wrong interpretation. I think that is more of what it is intended to be. But
mm,
emotionally, that's hollow to me. I don't feel like that's a good conclusion to the actual story that we actually read up until this
yeah.
point.
No, I agree with that. Um, I mean, on the other hand, you'd have to think of how little respect she had, even though she was the sun summoner, and now she didn't even have that, right? She doesn't have any high strategic knowledge, training, militia, whatever. She's not court trained, all that kind of stuff. You'd have to be like, okay, what can she actually do? But considering the growth Alina went through, I really do have a hard time believing that she's happy just living at the orphanage and like,
Also, like, technically she's not trained, but she has spent, like, her last year playing logistics and tactics just as much as any other Grisha. She was in the map room making decisions the entire time. The idea that she couldn't be an advisor to Nikolai and, like, help him with his work, like, just because she has no powers anymore is laughable, really. And, like, this isn't, again, it's like, this is a story. This could have gone any way the author wanted. But it went this way. It's not even a world that internally makes that much sense. So pretending like, no, it's just the rules of the world. It would make no sense for her to be anything but it. I was like, no, I just don't believe that. Like, even if I think her losing her powers is a good plot beat, which I don't, even then I think the ending she gets is unsatisfactory and makes the whole story leading up to it less interesting. Because if you know that she's just gonna end up back in the same place with no powers and her only confidant most of the time being Mal, it's like, what was any of this for? What was the point?
It does leave you with a lot of questions. Also in regards to, I think this we talked about in private over chat at some point. The whole thing of like focus on, what do they call them? Otskazatskaya, like the non-Grisha people. And how Morozova was like, very a kindred spirit towards them. Obviously, his wife and one of his daughters didn't have Grisha powers. But the lack of non-Grisha characters who actually do proper stuff in the books, and the fact that all the non-Grisha who were in like the sun summoner blast radius, let's call it, at the end of the book, turning into summoners and like becoming better little suns all over the battlefield.
The ending,
all of this just dirties the ending.
Everything in the story, the story to your face is like, no, people without power, ordinary people, matter. And the actual text of the story is like, if you're ordinary, get fucked. You don't matter. You barely get a name. No one who's ordinary matters. The only non-Grisha who play a meaningful role are Nikolai, who's a prince, and the most specialist, smartest, suavest, sexiest man alive, and Mal, who is not normal because he's a magical boy who can feel every living thing around him, because through inheritance he is connected to the making at the heart of the world. There are no normal people who matter. The closest we get is her fighting instructor, but he's also a super cool assassin. So it's like, there are no normal people, and that guy also just dies. He doesn't do anything. He's just there for a training montage. He could have been, I don't know, like a raccoon. It doesn't matter that he's there and doesn't have Grisha powers.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't matter.
And it just completely, like, whacks the ending over the head. Because it's like, okay, so what about it? Like...
Right. I also think that even disregarding the ending specifically, Ruin and Rising as a book just makes you look at the previous books and go, oh, we weren't going anywhere. Like, the first book is set up, it's like, oh, it's an interesting world, okay, I can see where we're going. The second book is like, okay, we're doing some of the same stuff again, but we're raising the stakes in some ways, we're introducing new players, the world is changing, we're going bigger, we're going
places, important.
And then the third book, and you're like, oh, where are we building to? What's going to be the cool, big finale? And the third book is like, oh, Libra Duo also didn't know where she was going with this, so the characters are just wandering around doing little side quests, and then at the end, there's no big finale, nothing mattered, because it's just a small squad of Grisha fighting another small squad of Grisha, and the Darkling just lets himself get stabbed, because he's like, what? Now I don't want to fuck you anymore. This is so sad. And that's just, it really it makes you go and see, oh, we weren't going anywhere? So what was the point of all of this? None of this matters.
It's like, you know, the Darkling was Leonardo DiCaprio, and in that moment, Alina turned 25. He was like, no, don't, you're so sexy.
I also think it's really, really funny that he clocked this the moment, like, the antler necklace came off, which, like, how would you know that means that? Like,
yeah.
Why would you...
I guess
but it's
he
really
felt
funny.
it.
He's like, no! Now you're just a normal girl! What am I gonna do? And it's like, I don't know, man. Have a child that can live with you for eternity, just like Bagra did. Like, have a weird codependent thing going on with your kid. Hang out with your kid until your kid is like 1,000 years old and you kill yourself. I don't know, like...
Get a dog, you know, let's just do something.
Get a magical dog. Anything.
Do you think there's Grisha dogs?
You immediately like, magical dog. I see.
Yeah, no, but it's truly... So, maybe... This was the first book, because you mentioned, like, they go on a little trip, and then another trip, and then another trip, and another trip. This was the first book where I thought the pacing was off at some point, especially during those last 100 pages, because it's like, they're in the Whitechapel. I remembered this part being so fucking long. I thought it was, but like, at least a quarter of the book. And then it wasn't. It's like 50 pages and they're already nearly out of the tunnels. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. That's nice. Wasn't...
No, it's not. They're out of the chapel, but it takes them to page 100 until they're out of the tunnels.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then I remembered, yeah, I had the 50 pages in my head. Then it was the 50 pages out of the chapel. But still, not as long as I expected it to be.
No, it's okay.
And then they go and they're like, okay, let's try and find Nikolai. Let's try and reconvene. And they walk through the countryside. And then, ambush by the Darkling. Oh my god. They're being hunted for sport by our sexy man. He is oddly incompetent at this. He gets distracted by Nikolai screaming, I'm hot. And then they get saved. And then they fly to
That was not the Darkling. That was just
a group
of soldiers. No,
I thought the Darkling was there too. What? Let me get on my book.
No.
Are they just screaming, we'll give you to the Darkling?
Yes. They're just like, oh, we're gonna get such a good reward for this. We love money. Can see. That's why we're going to betray you, even though the guy in charge knew Mal or something. If the Darkling had been there, that would have been really, really fucking funny. No, the Darkling is lounging on his throne.
I remembered this. I remembered this wrong. That is one instance, though, of the misogyny vortex counter that I put down in that scene.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Because he's like, oh, this isn't your usual. I was like, you? The fuck? Anyways. Then that happens, and you're like, oh, okay, now we're getting going. Going to the little mountain retreat that he has. The spinning wheel. I still have trouble imagining what that thing is supposed to look like. Anyways. Their mountain getaway in the Swiss Alps. And then you think, oh, okay, now we have like a training montage and things to do and things to enjoy. But then we get ambushed by the Darkling. We're like, oh no, oh, again. Like, a scene is being disrupted again, and they have to run away again. And then while they're running away, they're talking about making plans for such a long time. Which is ridiculous. Like, they're constantly talking about what they're gonna do instead of actually then doing it, which is so annoying. And then they're splitting up. And then we're walking again, and we're walking a long time. And I actually enjoyed that part a little bit. I thought it was nice to see like the description of the landscapes and everything, and the tiny little stuff that happens there. But it's all for naught in the end, because
Yes.
We find out the thing about Mal being the amplifier, which is really annoying because when they find out, Alina's like, ugh. I knew all along. I've been feeling this feeling for so long. I just didn't want to, like, admit it to myself. And I thought, girl, bitch, she could have saved us all of this. By just, realizing your feelings a little sooner, not lying to yourself. And then all they do is just walk back. And then they fight. Oh, no, they have a short little retreat. 2 days or something. And then they fight.
They fight, like, the most boring thing imaginable happens. 2 small groups of people fight in the desert. Can you imagine anything less impactful, less interesting? It's like they ran out of budget, but it's a book. Like, straight up. Like, they couldn't afford more, and it's just like, oh, she had no idea where she was going with these books the entire time. So the build-up is just all nothing. Like, it's just so nothing.
Like, if you sum up the plot, as I just did, it truly does not sound third book, end of a series. It sounds like, right? Second book, third book in a 4-book series. Like, what's
the
going
crazy
on?
part is that I felt like I remembered that the search for the Firebird took forever. And technically that's not true. Technically, I would say every little quest that they go on during the book is of a totally acceptable length. I can totally see an editor being like, I mean, it's fine.
Sure.
Like, technically the pacing of everything is fine. But the problem is that most of the things that happen have no point at all.
Yeah.
For most of this, we could have lived without these information. Like, most of this did not need to happen at all the way it happened. It's like, well, if we desperately needed the Bagra's backstory, which, frankly, we did not. Quite frankly, we didn't. Like, it's fun that we have it, but we didn't really need it. So we didn't really need to see the cool spinning wheel. Like, it's a fun set piece, but it doesn't really matter that much. We could have cut that out and just have been like, oh yeah, in the months that it took Alina to recuperate, the Apparat has made contact with Nikolai, and Nikolai and Bagra come meet Alina down there in the chapel, and they talk about stuff, cutting the 100 pages of going to the spinning wheel and all that shit. Whatever. Then the fucking search for the Firebird. Again, do we need this? Could we not have earlier? Even in the second book, it's already like, oh, Mal touches her empty, like, wrist and she feels a surge of power. Could that not have happened earlier? Did we need this many pages spent on that? Did we need to turn Nikolai into a giant bat in order to avoid interesting political scheming on the parts of our heroes?
Yeah.
We're told about, oh, there are political possibilities, and then it's like, actually, no, Nikolai's a bat now. The people who were on our side, they've surrendered. Don't worry about it. It's just us against the world. And it's like, this is so boring. And it's made even worse by the fact that these books keep recycling the same plot points over and over. At a certain point, it stops being a theme, and it starts being repetitive and boring.
Oh boy, you have a lot of feelings on that.
We do not need every one of these books to start out with Alina being powerless and reliant on Mal, then getting caught by the Darkling, there being some fight, them spending pages running away from the Darkling through the wilderness, them getting some sort of amplifier. So many things, like meeting the king around the midpoint of the book, him being kind of a dick who nobody cares about and we don't like. so many things just repeat over and over, and it's like, we've seen this before. What is the point?
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah. You would expect there to be more of a... So I totally agree with you. You would expect there to be more of a point of actually going for what they need instead of bumbling around like, like a bumblebee trying to find the entry to the burrow. Because the quest in itself is clear. It's been set up from the end of the first book, which is find all 3 amplifiers. Then in the second book, she struggles with it mentally and morally. Like, should she do it? Should she not do it? Blah, blah, blah. The question of who should become as evil as the Darkling. And then the decision for the third book is, no, we need that 3rd amplifier. Point blank. Right? After the attack at the end of the second book. So, why is there this much just wiggle-waggling around?
And, like, it's also annoying because it has to go this way, because if Alina put on the 3rd amplifier earlier than that penultimate moment, she would have realized what it does, and the story would have been not. So, it doesn't, like, she can't get the 3rd amplifier earlier, even though, from a storytelling perspective, wouldn't it have been more interesting of a fight at the end if Alina, because she already notices at the end of the second book, basically near the beginning of the third one, really figures out what the 3rd amplifier is, and then either fully decides I don't want it or I do want it. But why are we doing the quest for the Firebird? Mal's there the entire time. She even has the whole struggle of, I think my powers are gone. He could have just touched her and her being like, oh my god, I can do stuff while he's touching me. Oh, he's the amplifier. Whatever. You could have just have that happen 100 so many pages wasted on something we didn't need.
Also, I'm sorry, but how did... No, continue, please.
It's just, from the first book onward, like, halfway point, first book, the Darkling is the big bad who we need to defeat.
Mm-hmm.
She never defeats him. He gives up. Like, they have a fight, but he just... There is... Right? Like, there is no overcoming. He could have
bitch-slapped her into the desert, yeah.
Right? He could have dissected everyone with his cool supercut. He did not do that. He just stood there and was like, oh no! And she just stabbed him while he wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
That's not...
Yeah. It's... I, like, rereading this thing and everything and all of it, I was just... Also, again, so pissed at Bagra. Because I was thinking, how did she not notice that Mal was that 3rd amplifier? That woman was, for some reason, like the fucking Wikipedia of this universe. She knew everything. She could feel everything. She was so powerful. How did she not notice that? She's like, oh, wait. Through some weird voodoo magic, you feel like my sister that I, cut out of existence for like 10 seconds. You can't tell me she didn't feel that.
I think it's way funnier that the story is like, you know what happened? She heard Mal speak and she recognized his voice. Which, I'm very sorry to tell you this, but she's lived hundreds of years. I do not think people have voices that are... I think it's way more likely you find someone who sounds exactly like someone else you know than you find someone who looks like someone you know. I don't think voices are that rare or different. Also, it's been like 500,000 years, whatever, how long. He sounds like your dad? Are you shitting? Are we serious? Are we serious?
It's also... Stupid. I mean, I know that, like, male voices, or voices in general, don't change that much after puberty, and especially for male voices, there's, like, they can sound already very mature as soon as that big box grows in. But still, at some point, they do change, and the thought of Mal, who's, like, 19, 20, having the same voice as a guy who's, I don't know, in his late 30s, early 40s, her remembering that voice and then him having the same accent and the same everything else.
Right.
Girl.
I just love the implication that all the other genetics over time did nothing. Like, how many generations are we removed? The other sides of the family, no impact. 0. At which point you might wonder, do Mal and the Darkling just look the same? Are they like twinsies? Because the Darkling also still looks young? Is the Darkling so mad about it because he's like, it's not quite the mirror image, so it looks wrong to him, so he's like, something's up with this guy. I feel threatened, I don't know why.
It's like, who is the skater boy version of mine, you know? It's like, I don't understand. No, I get it. But yeah, overall conclusion, it would have also been really fun for them to get back to your earlier point, for them to actually do find the Firebird earlier and to kill it and to, I don't know, fasten something of that poor bird into something that can go on her wrist. And her wondering why her power doesn't, go
also
on.
A possibility.
But she pretends because she's like, all these people are counting on me, and if I say it didn't work, literally all the morale will be broken. And then at some point she realizes that Mal is the amplifier. Like, so many ways, but it's just a lot of... Like, even the Darkling is surprised she ran away. He's like, Alina, where have you been, Loka? I've been here all this time.
This is so funny!
Doing mayhem across the country.
Can we appreciate... He went to burn down the orphanage and hang the teachers on the tree outside.
And then he waited.
And then he's waiting 2 weeks inside the burnt down house. He had to be there all the time in case she came to him in his psychic vision so he could show off how cool he is and how he could murder people she cares about. It's so funny. Can you imagine? He's just camping out in this ruined house.
He probably sent out messengers to, like, sprinkle the rumor, like, oh my god, the Darkling, destroyed Karamzin.
Karamzin burnt down. Oh no.
My god. When Alina was out there living her granola girl life in the woods.
Right? She's looking for that big chicken and he's just waiting.
She was off doing side quests while he was the main quest just waiting.
Alina is living off the grid and he is sitting in this burnt down house being like, Alina, come to me, Alina, and it doesn't work. And he's like, have I lost the juice? What happened? Did she die? Did she, fall off a mountain? Did I miscalculate?
It reminded me a little bit of, whenever you play video games and there's an important thing going on in the main plot, but so many other things are happening too. So for, I don't know, 2 in-game weeks, 3 in-game weeks, you're off doing anything but the main quest. And you're like, oh, right, gotta save the world from utter destruction. Right. Let me go back real quick. Oh, it's just like that. But yeah, no, the overall... And then it is made worse, in my opinion. Any sort of drive and energy you have, which is why the last 100 pages are such a chore. Anything you have from that adrenaline from the moment of oh no, Mal is the amplifier, what do we do? Oh, Shadow Daddy just called us and told us that Karamzin has burned down. Oh no, we gotta go back, we gotta save these people. They then take an extra... what is it, day or even 2 at this random orchard apple farm and do some light invisibility bending training, and then they also have a fuck. It takes out any speed that you might have had, which is so annoying.
There's also this part where throughout the story, especially if you've read it before, you're just like, we need to stop focusing on characters who don't matter. I'm very sorry, but to introduce 2 new Grisha at the beginning of the book, in order just to have someone to kill off so you don't have to hurt any of your actual important characters, is so hack. I'm sorry. I don't care about these guys. One of them got a cat, so he matters more. The other one, they totally forgot about him. They were like, oh, we left him behind. I'm sure it's fine.
They never mention Justice.
They never think about him again.
Justice for Stig. They think about Sergei so many times, which admittedly he's been here a bit longer, okay? But we don't really notice him that much anyways.
Also, he betrayed them, so there's like more room.
So he's like traumatized, whatever. They do think about him more. But literally the only person, I mean, we don't get to see other POVs, but the only person thinking about my boy Stig is Elena when they run away from the spinning wheel, and she's like, all these people are trying to jump onto the plane.
We need to get Stig.
They try to get him off, and she's like, where's Stig? And I think Mal or someone is like, we can't, worry about him. Never again is this poor man mentioned anywhere.
No.
And he was their good, dependable Inferni. The other guy with the cat, I forgot his name, but the cat was something...
Harshaw.
No, now they've got the firecracky, edgy girl man with the cat, but they've just forgot about my boy.
It's also, I'm very sorry, but I don't care about Nadia's brother. Who give a shit? I don't care that he almost died. Yeah. He doesn't fucking matter. I don't care about him. I would care more if he died, but as it is, he doesn't matter. That's the problem if you're setting up a squad like that, because it's there are 3 people who matter, and then the rest is just there because logistically you do need a few more people to fill roles that just need to get done, but they don't matter. I don't care about this kid. He never does anything I could even remotely care about. Why is he here?
All he does is flirt with Zoya. Which is
right.
I don't fault you for this,
so embarrassing.
But it's a bit annoying.
It's couldn't we have kicked him out and got someone without Grisha powers instead who could have been interesting? No.
Well, we do meet Ruby at the start of the book because she helps them escape, and she is turned into a religious crazy person. But she gets sidelined very quickly because she stays. So
I think the way Ruby is handled is really funny because it feels like over the course of writing the books, Leigh Bardugo has examined at least some of her internalized misogyny. So now she's like, no, Ruby was never a bad guy. That was just a misunderstanding. Now she's women don't have to hate each other. And it's okay, but would Alina also feel that way if Ruby wasn't worshipping her? If Ruby was still flirting with Mal? Right?
And the thing is,
come on.
And the thing is, Ruby gets the first misogyny vortex counter of the whole book, which is, we hadn't been friends back then. Ruby had been more interested in Mal than religion. I'd been nearly invisible to her. Girl!
Right.
Now she literally has your logo tattooed on her fucking face. Now she's okay.
It's also, I think it also bears mentioning that every woman we meet who we are supposed to be sympathetic to is attractive. And women we are not supposed to are specifically mentioned as not as attractive or not attractive anymore. And I just think that's very interesting. I just think there's maybe something there that a 30-something-year-old woman might have had some time to examine, but somehow didn't. It's just interesting.
I get where she was trying to go with Genya, for example, where it was oh, she's insanely beautiful, and, she has tailored around on herself, and she's aware that she's beautiful, and she uses that, but at the same time, she and Alina very quickly built this friendship. But then she goes and does the same thing for Zoya, just that this time we're supposed to dislike this. With Genya, it's oh, she knows she's hot, and she uses it. And with Zoya, we're supposed to dislike it because Zoya flirted with Mal on the very first book.
Oh, and she fucked Mao.
Oh,
That's also
yes.
important. It is important
It
that we
had
spend time
happened.
in this book talking about the fact that they did have sex, but now that Zoya knows he's Alina's, she would never, in you know, go there again.
That also made it to the misogyny vortex counter for me,
Oh
but
yeah,
also for a different reason, where Zoya was like, "Oh, and if a man can say no to me, that's me. That's me. That means something." And I was like, "Zoya, you can't go around sexually harassing people until they give in.
it's
Like,
it's
leave that
also
man
just
alone."
it's also just like, again, it feels like on the author's part a complete lack of imagination on like maybe women have something other to offer and other
Mm-hmm.
women are aware that it's not just about looks,
Yeah.
but we can't have that. And I think the most annoying part of the book to me on this topic is the fact that when the Darkling dies, Genya becomes pretty again. The scars are still visible,
Hmm.
but with creams and her abilities, they're gonna be almost not noticeable anymore eventually. And it's like, no, what are you doing? You spend
Yeah.
so much time in this book examining how the world treats an ugly woman just to undo it all. Oh no,
Yeah.
Genya learned her lesson, so now she gets to be beautiful again. And it's like, wow, that's great, man. I love that. It's my favorite.
Yeah. And if it had been about like removing the corruption from the wounds, it could have just gone, it doesn't hurt anymore. Like, when Alina wakes up and
Right.
she's like, "Oh," and then she notices that the very worst thing of the scars is gone, and Genya's like, "Yeah, it doesn't hurt anymore, just like your shoulder." And then Alina's like, "Oh, right, my shoulder doesn't hurt." We could have gone just with that. With just the shoulder not hurting anymore, with just, there not being any pain anymore. Because having pain with a scar is something that also just constantly reminds you of it. So that would have already made everything easier for Genya in like to start with.
Right.
That it doesn't hurt anymore, like physically hurt. Yeah. There's some stuff to like superficially when you read the books and you're like not looking that much into it. It doesn't really, it's not the sort of stuff that jumps out of you with its ass to your face, right? But if you can spend like a second or third
Right.
thought of it, and you're like, actually, there's quite a lot here. It makes it go,
Yeah.
So that's not
There's there's a number of things
a
that make
number
you
of
go,
things.
why is this happening? And it's like, misogyny. Never mind.
Yeah.
There's also another thing. I mean, there are many things. Like the longer you think about this book, the more it falls apart. But just on a like just writing perspective, I also find the scene very strange where Nikolai confronts his dad. Like, where, Genya's like, no, this man, he sexually abused me, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then for some reason, she chose to write it as Nikolai turning to his father and going, "Did you force her?" And his dad being the one who says, "She's a servant. I didn't have to."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Nikolai, you're a man alive in the world. You were a pirate. Are you telling me you were unaware of the power dynamics involved in this kind of relationship?
Yeah.
You are. The way you talk about your brother, too, are you not aware that your brother and father are rapists? I thought from the second book you were aware of this. I thought you had
Right.
some understanding of this. Why is your dad the one admitting to it? Your dad, like, just from a writing perspective, the king should have been the one who, he shouldn't be like, I didn't have to force her. He should have been like, she should be grateful that I even wanted her. He should not have the self-awareness to go, oh, I definitely abused her, but like,
Who cares?
he would
Yeah,
not, a king who abuses women, he should not be thinking of it that way. It's very strange. Like, that scene It
I was
was
about
so
to say,
strange to me reading it. I was like, wait, why is it written like this out of all possibilities?
the overall scene was very strange to me. And
Yeah.
at the end of the second book, I was like, wait, where's the confrontation with the king? Because I thought that was happening in the second book, and then in the third book, I was constantly like, no, I remember this happening. It was like the situation when we were wondering why Nesta and Elaine hadn't jumped into the cauldron yet, and the other queens, right? We're like, what? When did it happen? Similar here, and then when the scene happened, it felt very, very artificially placed. And a little hashtag girl boss, hashtag allies and feminism, that kind of stuff. Because it feels like it's written from the perspective of someone like Alina, where it's like, this is what she would think, that the king would know it's a bad thing, and that's the thing he's annoyed by Nikolai pointing that out. But the thing is, no, Alina is not the author of this, right? Like,
It's also, frankly, it feels like such a hashtag girl boss that
yeah.
the king tells Genya, now you look what you are, ruined. And Genya mic drops with, I am not ruined, I am ruination. And it's like,
Oh, I hate that
babe,
quote.
the misogynist rapist is not gonna think that's a mic drop. He's just gonna
Yeah.
think you're pathetic and ugly.
Yeah, yeah.
And that it's unfair that he's getting punished for things he did that he rightfully deserves to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in no world is your powerful rapist who's getting away scot-free to a permanent vacation in the southern colonies ever going to care about how you personally might feel empowered now by the fact that you are scarred. He does not care. He will never care. He will always think of you as something lesser than himself. There is no winning this kind of confrontation with your rapist. It's not happening. It feels so juvenile and silly and just I understand that this is YA, but it still feels so removed from what the reality is, especially because, in a very realistic way, Genya was terrified of having to confront him in person, which is extremely understandable. Like, she felt powerful when she had poisoned him and thought he was just gonna slowly waste away and she never had to see him again and he was gonna be powerless and soon dead. But now he's not anymore. Now he's doing better. Now Nikolai has once again given him power over her. Of course that would be horrifying. Yeah. But then the scene ends with her being like, I am ruination. And we're supposed to think that's cool and empowering and like the right way for the scene to go.
I think overall this scene showed that the understanding of the actual, what you said in the beginning, actual power dynamic, has not been understood. It's like reading an essay and going, close, but not close at all. With the whole, oh, did you force her? And then him also, like Nikolai also going like, shut up, father. I make the decisions now. And I will prosecute you for, like, worse crimes if you do speak up. And it's
Actually,
what? Like, what?
Actually, also insane that he's like, you would be tried as a normal man. And and the punishment for this would be, like, death. And I just want to say,
never.
Ravka, deeply conservative country, the idea that anyone would be persecuted for rape under the death penalty is insane. First off,
Never.
They can't afford to kill that many people. And also, I don't think they would care that much about it. They'd probably be like, yeah, you have to pay a fine, or you have to serve in the army even longer than conscription normally takes, or whatever.
Yeah.
But it would not, you wouldn't... Again, if we're trying to go for any sort of historicity, even in vibes, that shit didn't get you killed.
Yeah.
It's terrible to think about, but sexual abuse and rape was extremely common, and even today is still very common. You can't just kill every rapist. It doesn't work that way.
And it's also, yeah, it's also the fact that you would never get along or get away with saying, "Oh no, the king is being tried as a normal person."
It right?
Not on the very thin ice that Nikolai is standing on, being a royal bastard son. As soon as he would even try
I
to
honestly,
drag him through court.
I would have been like, guys, we haven't killed the Darkling yet. We can just, like, ship the king to, like, the Darkling's castle and, like, see what happens. Like, he's probably gonna kill him, it's fine. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just... This whole scene is also another one where I'm like, we could have just not done that. We could have been like, Nikolai's like, yeah, I shipped off my parents, to the other side of the ocean because I was worried for their safety, but also I cannot trust my father with ruling because he makes awful decisions. And, yeah.
The spinning wheel overall feels like a lot of these scenes where she was like, oh, it's necessary to get them in there. She would just place them. The conversation with Bagra, as you've already said, like, the whole background story, Morozova's story, all of that. The scene, even though I really like that scene, the scene with Alina and Nikolai, they have their conversation, and Nikolai is like, listen, I will ask you to be my wife at some point. These are the conditions I will unfortunately have for you. You can say no, you can say yes. Just know that this is what you... Like, all of that, it feels like she was like, oh no, I need to get those done before they go to the Firebird search. And since in her head, the Firebird search would have to happen after the Darkling attack, she was like, how do I get these scenes in? And then she just throws all the important character in one place.
The spinning wheel is just like, oh... To me, it felt just like, oh, we can't once again, in the middle of the book, return to the palace and talk to the king there. Mm-hmm. So now we need another cool place that is visually impressive to meet the king at and, like, pal around for a bit. Like, we even have a Bagra teaching scene. We have this every book. We do this every time. Yeah.
It did feel to me like this... In the same way that they trained Alina to, like, use the lens apparatus in the second book.
Right.
It feels like this time they were like, okay, Alina, if you just make the cut big enough, you will hit the Darkling at some point.
Generally, it is one of the points I wrote down. Like, I don't get why these books fetishize the cut so much. Yes, it is kind of cool, but also... Is it really that impressive compared to all the things a powerful Grisha could technically do? Like, I don't get... Yes, it is kind of cool, but also... It's just a cut, man. Like you're just cutting things.
I honestly thought it was a lot cooler when they get, like... ambushed by... They get ambushed again. When they get ambushed by these bandits when they search for the Firebird. And it's in like 1 or 2 sentences described how harsh the Inferni dude and Zoya team up to make like a little fire tornado and go... Right. That's so... Like... The cut was cool because the first time we see the cut, it's so theatrical with the Darkling opening his hands wide and then boom, clapping his hands together. You hear this thunder sound and then you see like this cut like racing over the field. That's why the cut in the beginning was so cool. But
it's like, hey, it's cool over. You can cut a mountaintop, but why this isn't useful for a fight. This seems really pointless for a fight. It would have indeed been a lot smarter from a writing perspective to have the Darkling defeated by unconventional, like, Grisha synergy stuff. Mm-hmm, because he has always been like, no, they need to divide it into their jobs and each does their job separately. So, having Grisha work together in new and unconventional ways to bring him down would have also been a good way to enforce the themes you were at least talking about, even if you're not showing them.
And the themes already established in the second book, because Alina is very, like, set on having the Grisha mix and work together. So it's like...
And anti-fish, yeah.
Where did that go? Where did all of that go? It truly... And one thing, because you mentioned Bagra and the teaching thing.
Yes.
One thing I wrote down about Bagra was that, like, after she dies, there's all these little quips about, oh, Bagra could do this, Bagra could do that. And then when Elena is looking at the brother and he's missing one arm, she's like, oh, if anybody, Bagra could teach him how to like, wield his powers better. And I was like, no, she traumatized the poor man.
She's a terrible teacher. It's really funny. One of my notes about her is literally just, she died the way she lived, wasting my time. because her death is also comical in the way that her kamikaze maneuver is so pointless. It's such an ineffective way to use her powers. It's like, girl, couldn't you have done a bit more than this?
She could have sent them off anywhere. Instead, she was like, follow me, and jumped off a cliff.
No, she could have just destroyed so many of them with the cut, and the Darkling wouldn't have done anything because he's a mommy's special little boy.
Or that. She could have sent them at the Darkling. She could have go kill the Darkling, and then he would have been forced to destroy them himself.
Anything but just...
whatever she did.
Looping her shadows around them like a lasso and jumping off a cliff to pull them down with her. How would she even know that'll kill them? They're made of shadows. Like, what are you doing, ma'am? Like, if you want to kill yourself, that's fine, but this is a terrible way to use your life.
Imagine her going, like, shadow lasso and throwing that, and it just goes whoosh through them, and she's like, oh.
Like, why didn't she want to drag the Darkling down with her? She thought he was, like, a failed son. Like,
never.
She was like, no, that's true, she loved him, but also she was like, well, he does suck. Yeah, I agree.
Every single time there's the first scene where she meets Alina again at the spinning wheel, and she's like, oh, look at the cute little martyr. I wanted to push that woman off a cliff without the shadow creatures. Because what do you mean, woman? What? I hate her.
Genuinely, it feels like Leigh Bardugo really likes the character of Bagra, and that bleeds into the character's opinions.
Yeah.
I would not dislike her so much if the narrative wasn't like, look, it's Bagra, she's so cool. She might be a strict teacher, but she's good. And look at her tragic backstory. Isn't she cool? And it's like, no, she's not doing anything. She's supposedly an insanely powerful shadow sorcerer. Is she doing anything? No. Then who cares? She might as well have killed herself in the first book. Who cares? I don't. Why would I care?
Yeah, to me that's the whole thing. She's supposed to be this strong leader type for what she did back in the day. And now she just sits there and goes, huh. She doesn't strike me as a person who would commit suicide, because she'd be too, like, prideful of that. She'd be like, no, I can't just wink out because, my cause has failed or anything like that. But at the same time, she also doesn't strike me as the person to not do anything like she had been doing in the books, right? She's just sitting there. I bet with you, the Bagra from when she was pregnant with the Darkling, she would look at this older Bagra with disgust. She would look at this woman and be like, what happened to you? And we're supposed to think she's the most... When all the Grisha are like, oh, she did this, oh, she did that. I don't remember what that happens in the third or in the second book. Oh yeah, she's sick like a hive of bees on me. I'm like, why are we laughing?
It's also just, I cannot fathom why the character she's described it, and the character that we see in the Darkling short story would ever end up just sitting in a little cottage while her son is playing King's advisor. I don't know
Right.
why she would just sit there and do nothing. She was in that. I always want to say novella. It's just a short story. In that short story, she is politicking hard. She has connections everywhere. She's flirting. She's making use of every power she has. And yet, there, she's just sitting alone in a hut. No connections, no nothing.
Yeah. And
She
she's
lets her
not doing
son
anything.
just blind her.
And she's, yeah, and then she's like, what's so annoying is that she puts all of that onto Alina, and she's like, you should have done something, you should have done this, you should have done that. It's like, yeah, I failed, my son. I was like, but do you realize how horrifically you failed everybody? Not just your son, not just the country, not just the Grisha. I truly, to me, Bagra is the real villain in this story, and it persists in this third book, and it's so annoying that every single time people are like, oh, I miss Bagra. I'm like, no, you don't.
The thing
Shut
is,
up.
like, I think in the first book, and then in the second still, I could still see her as, like, a character I strongly dislike. At this point on, she's just a plot device. She's just the cranky teacher plot device who dispenses relevant information that Alina couldn't have gotten any other way at the points where it's necessary. She might as well be a cursed book that gives you information but also is kind of a dick to you. She doesn't need, like, what even is, again, that's the thing. I don't feel like from the books I have any idea of what she would or wouldn't do. The character in the short story, she has such a strong characterization, even though she's not even in it that much, because most of the time is her son hanging out with other kids his age, which, makes sense.
I mean, that's what it's about, yeah.
Right? So it's like, she's not even in there much, but it paints such a strong picture of what kind of person she would be. But the Bagra in the main story is just like, she's an old woman who is crotchety and remembers a world from 1,000 years ago, and also raised the worst guy in the world. He's not the worst morally speaking, but his effect on the world is
like the
worst anyone could have done, really.
Yeah.
So,
what
is this?
I agree with you. It feels like she had this idea, and then posthumously, she was like, oh, I'm gonna write that down, how cool she is. Same thing with Mal and his letters to Alina, where you don't really get to see any of what is supposed to be charismatic about Mal. And then Lee Bardugo wrote all of that out in, like, the romance letters for Alina, which are in the first book, I think. All of it just does not. She does that quite a bit. I think the only story where it doesn't feel like she changed the character much was the Taylor story, the Genya story.
Yeah, the Genya story.
Because it's like, she has been quite well mapped out in the story and has been consistent. But yeah. Before we continue to rage on Bagra for another 15 minutes, I'd like to rage on something else. The Alina power thing.
Let's talk about it.
I mean, already said sensitive topic, right? But what made me so angry was that at the very beginning of the book, when she gets her powers back, because she realizes the closer she is to the sun, the more she feels the sun, they come back. She literally says, a sense of being right and whole for the first time in months. Right. Some part of me had truly feared I might never be restored completely. And that is a sentiment she puts out so many times. At one point, Mal is like, hey, come back, it's getting dark. And she's like, no, I'm the sun summoner. It gets dark when I say it does. She, like, fully starts to embrace this role. and she loves her powers. She loves them all of the time. She hates the role of the Sun Summoner, but throughout the books she starts to grow into that. And then we just take it away. Oh, I hate it so much. I hate it so much.
It feels so cruel. And I also feel like the fact that it was received fairly badly is the reason why Nina's arc is the way it is in Six of Crows.
Yeah.
But I think that makes it worse. Like, what is the thing about it really is that there might have been value to her losing her powers and not being the Sun Summoner anymore if it had been an intentional sacrifice.
Yeah.
If she had known what would happen and chosen it because she thought it was the right thing to do. But the way it happens is just like, oh, I guess I don't have powers anymore.
It's like an accident, yeah.
And especially because even in the epilogue, it's described how she will stop in the sunlight and just like mournfully look at her hands and obviously still miss her powers, where it's like, this feels extremely cruel to your main character for no reason. If you wanted her to experience the whole word changes people and you lose things, couldn't Mal just have been dead? Could that not be the lesson we learned? Is that not enough? Does he have to come back? Why is she the only one who loses her powers?
She had to pick one.
Mean.
The man or the powers. And unfortunately, this is... the thing is, I am such a sucker for bittersweet endings and for main characters suffering. Oh, it's a juice I love to bathe in. So, in general, because you said at the beginning of the video, I was like, hey, there's a way to do a power loss right. In general, you could do it in a right way. But since it's shown as a good thing, and it's so unsatisfying in the way it happens, it feels unsatisfying as a whole in the end. And we're supposed to feel glad that, oh my god, thank god Mal didn't die. He did die, and he should have stayed dead. You know, that's all I'm saying.
It is genuinely... Reading it feels so random. You're not shocked. You're not like, oh no. You're just like, wait, what? What? Why is this happening? Huh? What? Huh?
The first time I read the book, I thought we were going to have a similar scene like we had in the chapel. With, you know, Alina tapping into his power. But this time, since the Darkling knew what was going to happen, it'd be like this whole thing of them battling it out, you know,
for dominance.
While being locked in. And then, you know, Alina, I don't know, incapacitated Mal, but then he crawls over the sand and grabs her wrist and... boom, you know, with, as you said, with her being fully aware of that this might kill her or take her powers away, because she was trying to take his powers away as well. But yeah, it's more like an, oh, oops, I accidentally pushed the self-destruct button. It's like, poof.
Yes. There's a lot of gripes I have with, like, the world building and, like, around the magic specifically. So I'm asking, do you want to talk about that, or do you want to finish talking about the characters and then go to all the gripes afterwards? Because I honestly just don't have that much to say about most of the characters, because they're mostly the same in this book as in the last book.
Yeah. I have some, it's like a bit of funny stuff that I wrote down. Where it's like, what? One thing I thought was hilarious was that when Alina had, like, first figures out how she can do, like, she figures out in the previous one, but when she gets her powers back and then she spies again on the Darkling, she's so unhappy that he seems well, and she's like, I wonder whether his black hair turned to white like mine. He'd recovered better than I had. I was just laughing because I thought, wait, what if it did? What if it did turn white, but the Darkling was like, going full emo,
He was
just
dyeing it every day.
Because I thought, we don't know, Alina. We don't know.
Alina, it's also his brand. Like, you're the Sun Senator. You can have white hair and it's banger. But he's the Darkling. He cannot do that. He cannot look older than his mom, okay? Like, come on.
I also wrote down that for Mal, it felt like there was a bit of character saving going on.
Yes.
Like Lee Bardugo noticed that people did not like this man, so she was trying to save him. Number one with the "I become a blade" tattoo, but also with him going to Alina and being like, I wasn't afraid of you, I was afraid of losing you, you're becoming someone who doesn't need me anymore, but this is who you were always meant to be, like a strong woman. Which I felt like Mal had a couple of strong moments in this book. He was also the person who said, no, Alina, you have to kill me. I don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you want. You have to kill me. In the battle as well, he's like, with the dagger, he's like, Alina! Alina, you have to kill me. Come on. A few strong moments of Mal there. I was like, I'm proud of you, boy.
I definitely agree. He is a lot more bearable in this one. Because he makes, like, not quite a 180, but he changes quite a bit from the previous book, which, like, you can be like, oh, Alina almost died, he's had a learning moment, and that's, diegetic explanation or whatever. But I do think, to some degree, I'm like, this man should not be this self-aware. He's 17 years old. Let's be serious. He does not have the introspective capabilities to recognize what was wrong with him.
I think the most, obvious where it felt like we're trying to retcon previous Mal behavior was, I don't know whether it happened before they canoodle or after, but she's like, oh, do you think we're just together because, you're the amplifier? And he's like, no, what we have is ours, it's been forged between us, it belongs to us, and also I did always have nasty thoughts about you. And that made me go,
and it's like, I don't think so, Mal. I don't believe you. But also, if you're implying you were in love with her the entire time, your whore behavior before she became the specialist girl in the world makes you an even worse person as if you hadn't been in love with her. Because, I don't know, if you're in love with someone, I do expect you to have more consideration for them and to pay more attention to them than if, you're besties, especially in regards to your relationships.
Yeah.
Because if you want, why wouldn't you have shot your shot? She literally had no friends. You were the only guy. Are you this bad at reading her? Like, she's been in love with you her entire life.
To me, it felt very much like, oh, we're trying to do damage control, because he doesn't say, oh, I always had feelings for you, oh, I always loved you. He says, literally, what is it?
He noticed her or whatever.
I had some very ... distracting thoughts about you. He was just a horny teenage boy. He did not look at this woman, young girl, and go, oh my god, this is my Alina, this is my girl. But he was like, oh, I have a boner every 30 minutes.
It's like, this was just the first pair of tits that wasn't on, like, his teacher that he ever saw,
It's just a teenage boy experience, so it feels like,
It also just doesn't feel, like, charming to me. Again, I already don't find their relationship charming at all, but him being like, oh yeah, I had a wet dream about you, or I wanked off thinking about you. That's not, okay? That's nothing.
Especially since, I think this is something we talked about last video, where I was like, they felt very sibling-coded to me. Reading this for the first time, and also now for a second time, I was like, ugh. This is weird.
I don't know, it's also just like, if in transformative work that is not
Mm-hmm.
an original piece of fiction, I don't mind the idea of like soulmates and connection through the universe, because it's like, oh, it's just like a fun trope to get
Whatever.
characters
Yeah.
together that you already like together in a piece of media where this is not the case. But having it in your original piece of fiction will basically always make me root against that relationship, because the idea that, like, oh, the character's future was always set in stone. They didn't have choices. Fate just put them together, and that's where they have to stay. I find that extremely unromantic. That's
Yeah.
not enjoyable to me. I am already someone who likes rooting for the underdog just because I love drama, but here especially it's just like, you're just attracted to him because he's got the amplifier juice in him. He might as well be a deer. Come on, Alina. Like, be serious.
I really love anything to do with fate and prophecies and the inevitable, run to outsmart these things and then realizing, no, I can't. But as you said, as soon as the romantic stuff gets into it, it's like, I love myself some, like, platonic, or whatever, whatever the fuck this is, sort of soulmate situations in books, or like in what do you say, like original fictional work. But as soon as the romance comes in, I'm like,
It's like,
I don't like
I
it.
don't even. I'm sure there are ways to do soulmates or people fated to be together in original fiction that I've read that I thought were good, but I think the whole like, oh, because we're meant to be together because
We
of
have
some
to
magic
be.
shenanigans, we have this attraction that makes us
Yeah.
incapable of loving anyone else. And unfortunately for Lee Bardugo, I have read City of Bones, which means all I can think about when I read this is that Jason and Clary are just in love because they both have the same angel juice inside of them, which attracts each other. So that's just not romantic to me. I just think that, like, hey, because of magic we had no influence on, we're just attracted to each other and can't love anyone else. I think that's not hot. I think that's kind of weird, and I think it's especially, I don't know, there's also just this flavor of romance about it that I don't like, where it's like, oh, I met you when I was like 6 years old, and from then on it could have been no one else for me. Like, you're the only man I could ever be with because we met when I was young, and
Yeah.
I liked you as the first guy, and I can never experience anything with anyone else.
Yeah, it's
I
a
don't like
bit,
it.
it's a bit overall weird, but that's something I
It's
did notice while reading, because I was so tuned in on why did I hate this young man so much. So in this third book, I was like, sure, like I already disliked him less, or like
yes.
I liked him less from the second book, and I was like, okay, now the third book, the final punch is coming in, but it just felt very, no, trust me, he's a good guy.
Honestly, I felt like a lot of the writing had the vibe of, we're working towards an amicable breakup. There was so many conversations that they had where I
Yeah.
was like, this feels like two people who are like, yeah, we loved each other as children and we still care a lot, but we're
Yes.
just not gonna be together, and that's also fine. There are several scenes where I was like, honestly, this could have been a amicable breakup, or like them coming to terms with the fact that she's gotta stab him like a pig, it's could have been,
Especially,
but it
yeah.
wasn't.
Especially considering the earlier conversation she has with Nikolai, where he's like, I'm gonna ask you to be my wife, and if we get married, then Mal has to go somewhere else because I don't want our child to have,
Right.
the same rumors of being a bastard flying around.
And even Mal being like, I will go away, I
Yeah,
cannot stay. And I was like,
yeah.
okay, that would have been banger. I would have liked that.
Which, again, something that they do in the Netflix show. Mal becomes a new
Yeah.
Stormhand.
I think there's I think I generally just have a strong appreciation for the idea like of amicable breakups, especially in
Yeah.
fiction, because it barely happens ever. There's something very adult and nuanced about the ability to look at someone and be like, we had something, but
Mm-hmm.
it has shifted into something else, and now I want to redefine this relationship. And it's kind of sad to let it go, but also
Yeah.
it is necessary for both of us to move on with our lives in a way that actually will make us happy. And it's not there often. I mean, many books demonize exes or
Yeah.
don't allow for amicable breakups at all or just kill exes. And that's just I mean, I'm not saying every breakup has to be amicable. Oh my god, no. But I
Mm-hmm.
think especially with characters this codependent, it's like, you can be like, yeah, I thought we were in love and maybe we were, but that was when I was 15 and I'm 20 now, so I think I've changed and you've changed.
I think it's especially like I agree with that. I think it's especially because usually breakups happen because someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
Um, so that makes it difficult, and especially in like a fantastical story like this, there's lots of drama, there's lots of moving pieces. I feel like that's why usually the breakups are quite
Yeah.
harsh,
Of course.
because it's also more entertaining to read in that sense.
Absolutely.
Like a Jerry Springer show being like, what? No way! It's like that kind of stuff.
Wait, you
But
fucked my dad? I'm gonna kill you,
um, but I agree, especially because there were these very nice tastes and nuances of this in Alina's and Nikolai's relationship that felt very like almost out of place, mature
Yeah.
in this book. Or in the series in total, so it's not like Leigh Bardugo can't write it, right? She had it in there. It's just didn't work out. I have one more character thing that I
Yes.
wrote down that I just thought was funny, which was so. The whole thing of how the Darkling lures Alina into the whole fight is because he was like, yeah, I burned down Karamzin, I killed all the kids, and then when they, or I have some of the kids, still on my ship, and then they try to get the kids from the skiff, and then they're like, oh my god, where are the kids? And then the Darkling goes like, oh, Alina, you really just thought I'd be such a bitch, And then she's like, oh my god, truly, he said, make me your villain. And I made him my villain in my head. And the way this read, to me, felt like, see, guys, he ain't that bad. He wouldn't kill all those kids. It felt like a little moment of, oh no, you see, the Darkling isn't that bad of a guy. It's like, but he did a lot of other really bad things.
Listen,
But make me your villain? What?
I think it's very funny because it's just like he's just like, I'm criticizing your tactical thoughts here, and she's just like, wow, really deep shit here.
I'm 13 and this is deep,
Yeah.
That was one of the, and then there was one thing, because I don't know where it might fit. That is completely on me. But there's a scene where again there's lots of planning and talking, and Alina's like, what will happen to Nikolai if we do kill the Darkling? Like, will he also cease to live because they're connected through the shadow power thing? But while reading this, and I did not glance over it or anything, while reading it, the sentence is, what if killing the Darkling caused his death? And the way this is written, I was like, wait, what? What if killing the Darkling kills the Darkling?
Really funny.
What if it causes his death? And then I had to read this a couple of times, and then before I went to the previous sentence, I was like, oh no, right, we're talking about Nikolai. The way this one sentence was structured, and then when I went... And I had forgotten that. And when I went through my tabs, I was like, why did they underline this sentence? And then I read it again. And my tab was over the Nikolai sentence before.
So you were like, wait, what?
Wait, even more out of context. I was like, what is this? So this is the only time this happened to me. Otherwise, just text-based, I think the books are written okay. Right? Sometimes very nice sentences, usually on average, okay, fine. But this one sentence just took me out. It's like, what if killing the Darkling caused his death? Just made me chuckle.
That's incredible. No. While we're on the Darkling, I will say, first off, I wrote this to you, but the scene where she astral projects and he's shirtless. All I could think is about that scene from The Last Jedi, I think, where Kylo Ren is shirtless and all the wide Kylo Ren memes.
Ben Swallow, you mean?
And then, it's like, I hear the Darkling has an 8-pack. I hear the Darkling is shredded.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought in the scene where Nikolai is like hiding in between the other soldiers, where he's like, I hear Nikolai is really hot. I hear he's very charismatic. I hear yeah, no.
That's it. But
this
also generally,
in that scene, how smooth and suave the Darkling tries to be, and I'm like, you're sexually harassing her. Stop.
I will say, though, I think out of all the books, this is the one with, like, the most shippy Darklina scenes.
It's so weird. Yeah.
Where the scenes where I'm like, no, I see why people were so invested. Like, they have so much weird eye contact. There's so much standing super close to each other, breathing in each other's air, even if it's astral projecting. The vibes, like...
At some point he cradles
I personally
her.
think he's kind of a weird clown, so I don't think it's hot. But I can see why some people would think it's hot.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny that Leigh Bardugo wrote it like this, and then came out the other end going, why do so many people ship Helena and the Darkling? Like, you wrote this. Do you not see what you wrote? Like, come on.
Yeah. Overall, the Darkling really baffles me in this book. Because he is even more pathetic on all ends. The one scene where you're like, oh, maybe he's a bit of a badass is the one where he, holds up a Sergei and is like, ha! This dude betrayed you, and then rips him apart. But then he soon is pathetic again, because he's just floating in the air while his mother kills all his shadow creatures. And he just does nothing.
No, mommy!
And then he just watches her. He doesn't
even try to... He dives down after her.
Well, yeah, but first he watches her
after a few seconds. Like, he gives her a bit of a head start, yeah, but...
Yeah, a head start to crush her head. But overall, all of these scenes, like, also from Alina's side, she's like, oh, the Darkling, oh no, I'm so sad, hold me. And then he does, like, he holds her in his arms in the shadow projection realm. It's so weird. I agree with you. I didn't write this down, but it did bother me greatly when I read the book.
The thing is, again, rereading these as an adult, like a fully grown adult, I'm just like, he's such a weirdo freak. I'm not into this. But if I'd read this at like 15, I would definitely think he's hot. Because I do love evil men in fiction. I will say that. But reading this as an adult, it's just like, he's such a funny guy. In a pathetic way. It's like, I love watching him fail his way through life.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunately not hot, but it is funny. So the scenes with him continually are funny, but I don't think that's the intent. I don't think...
The thing is, I read this trilogy after Six of Crows. So Six of Crows I read like when I was like 19, 18 something. And then I read these. I remember when I bought them, and I must have been 21. I must have been 21 when I read these. So not that much younger, it feels like, but at the same time, not
older.
Yeah, like I wasn't a teenager. I also wouldn't say I was an adult at that point, in terms of, thinking about this kind of stuff. But back then, I do remember also going, this is weird. I don't know. I wasn't
You're
feeling
not
any...
into the toxic bad boys.
At point, I am. I was just feeling no romance for the whole series. That's the thing. Like, back in the day, I also wasn't feeling any romance between Nikolai and Alina. I was like, Alina should stay single. I did have the hots for Nikolai, just not with Alina, you know? So it's like...
I think it's also... I think I might have read Six of Crows first, but I didn't remember much about it when I read these books. Because I remember I read Six of Crows after again, but I think she improved a lot between these, so the Grisha Trilogy feels like such a downgrade. Even though the characters are mostly the same age, Six of Crows feels... It's not mature by any means, but comparatively it feels so much more mature than what is going on here, that it's kind of crazy. You come back from Inej and Kaz having, this complex relationship in which they are in love, but they're both burdened by trauma that prevents them from actually having a functioning relationship. And you come back to this and watch Alina and Mal and you go, what the fuck is this?
What is happening?
What is this?
Yeah. No, it was just... Well, I'd say let's jump from characters to what you said you had notes on, like the world building and stuff.
I have so much beef with the world building, because the more I think about it, the less the pieces fit together. The main focus of this series is specifically, like, the amplifiers. Yeah. And let us just start with Baghra, who, by all rights, should have really known what her dad was working on if she was, like, in his workshop so much underfoot and stuff. I feel like maybe she should have been more clued into what the amplifiers were actually made for. Yeah. But regardless of that, it is obvious to me that the first book was not written with the later lore in mind. In the first book, you have Baghra go, no, I only told my son the deer was fictional, so he, might give up on it, but it's actually real. I'm like, he has the journals. He has your dad's journals. He knows they're real. Yeah. What are you talking about? What do you mean? You told him they're actually... What? Insane. But then also, I cannot believe this guy made the amplifiers specifically to spread power, but then also, like, in theory, we hear about how powerful he was, right? And how much he suffered from being alone in that power, and how much he would rather have connected to people he felt removed from everyone. So we have to assume he was making them for himself, right? He was making them in order to rid himself of his own otherness, but give more power to people around him, because he was like, oh, Grisha don't have enough power, there need to be more of us so we can, whatever. Why the fuck does he go out and turn a special deer, a fucking sea serpent of ginormous proportions, and, in theory, a firebird into his amplifiers? Why doesn't he take 3 hamsters from his neighbors, turn them into the amplifiers, and use them immediately? What was he doing? What do you mean?
I mean, okay, now we know where the Darkling has his, like, dramatic streak from, which is more over. But it is a bit weird, yeah.
If he was planning to use them, why did he do it like that? Because that would have meant after he made the third one, he would have had to go back and chase down that deer and hunt that serpent a second time. He had already gone and killed them, then performed weird alchemy on them, and then just released them back into the wild. What was that man doing? What was he doing? So
the way it's said, he was like, and they settled in a small town, a place where he could continue his experiments and hatch his plans for which creature would become the third amplifier. I mean, the guy was clearly having fun picking some weird-ass animals for his amplifiers, but...
This would make sense if the amplifiers were just that, were just amplifiers who were going to make someone immensely powerful, and he was like, no, it's gonna be such a cool myth when I pick the right Grisha and then tell them about this, and they're gonna go on an epic quest and become the Grisha King of Ravka or whatever. But the idea that you would do that if you wanted that power spread makes no sense. It's not like he had visions of the future in which his grandson had somehow turned a part of Ravka into a dark desert, and there would one day be a girl with powers that, if spread among many people, could turn that desert normal again somehow. That... What? No! That's insane!
It was... The whole Morozova myth in itself is extremely weird, but I see you have more thoughts, so please continue.
Right. So, then we continue on with the story where Bagra, for some reason, as a child, in a fit of anger, was capable of performing a type of magic we're told needs practice and refinement because it's so special, and used it on her sister. How did she do that? We don't know. It would be cool, I guess. But then we're back at the point where, like, listen, it's cool to be able to cut someone open. Sure. But one of the easiest things to heal is a clean cut. The guy, an extremely talented healer, putting his daughter back together, reviving someone like that, if you have magic to just put the organs back in, like, working order, doesn't even require magic. Like, that, I don't see how that would be any more, like, against the fundamental laws of the world than just, like, performing CPR, right? Like, how is that? Like, yeah, that'd be blood loss some, but I don't see how that, like, that the townsfolk would want to kill him over that, sure, whatever, who give a shit. But that this revival would somehow require him to use deep magic to turn her into an amplifier? Because it also sounded from Bagro's story like he had revived animals before without turning them into amplifiers. So how did he accidentally complete the set with his daughter? What?
I think some of this is also based on the vagueness of what the cut does. When a Darkling uses the cut for the first time, he cuts a person like through very clearly, like two halves of a person going, wee, you know?
Right.
I feel like, depending on how fast Morozova was at arriving at the field, I would say it's a bit harder to try and fit that back together. We have also seen the cut being, quote-unquote, just like a slash.
Right?
On people too, when Elena first tried to get a hit, like how it works, tried to figure it out. Bagra being a kid and all of that, right. I feel like she wouldn't do the snippy snappy, she would do the slashy slash.
She wouldn't do the cartoon cutting in half, so...
Where I agree with you, I don't know how... Like, yeah, you could speculate on, like, how long was she lying there? How fast did he have to be? Was he obviously emotionally distraught because it was his daughter lying there? But at the same time, wasn't it like one ox on a field that he revived, and the townspeople like didn't, chase him on the pyre? So like,
No, it's like in the fairy tales, it is like an ox-drawn plow or whatever that kills the kid. But it's
is that
also like
okay?
in his journals, they talk about in his journals how he kept reviving animals and stuff for
Yeah,
practice. So like again, clearly, you don't have to turn like okay, narrative necessity that he uses evil magic to bring her back to life. Whatever, sure. But then the question arrives of why would that turn her into the amplifier
yeah,
just because like that's like we know why, so the story works, but if you just think in the universe of
yeah.
the story, why would that be the reason this happens? That
Like,
feels
was he not
random.
careful? Is there a
Like
certain aspect he needs to hold back, which he didn't hold back with
I,
her?
I would assume it's extra work to turn something into a mythical amplifier in a set with two others that already exist than just reviving something.
Yeah, because
But
I don't think that he would willfully go. Because I mean, what we see from him, like what's described of him, he seemed to be very in love with his wife and his children, and he was very aware of what the amplifiers would do. So he wouldn't willingly go, oh yes, I'm going to condemn
right.
my one of my daughters to be an amplifier, which means, in order to gain full power in the little Grisha thing, which I want to use, will be for me to kill my daughter and then wear her bones as a necklace.
Right?
Like, he didn't
That
do that on
makes no
purpose.
sense. But I would also like to posit that even the way Bagra tells the story, I just don't believe that Morozova liked the common folk. He didn't
Yeah.
interact with them. He loved
He liked
his
his
wife.
family.
Did he just love her, or did he just like that he was way more powerful and she could never escape? We don't know. We don't know this man. We have never met him. His solution to, oh, I want, like, oh, he loves the common folk. He loves them so much that his ultimate plan is to turn them into the same thing he is. I don't think he loved the common folk. I just don't really believe that. That doesn't sound like something you would do if you appreciated the fact that they have no powers.
He
It
feels
just
like a very, what would you call it? Like rich people who are like, oh, you just have to manifest, girl. You just have to manifest. You just have to, And he was like, I love every single one of you. You just have to manifest being a Grisha hard enough, and then we can all be amazing and not disadvantaged and poor forever. That's what he felt.
yeah.
It doesn't read as malicious in the sense of the way the Darkling or Bagra at some point felt about non-Grisha. Just a little misplaced, maybe.
I just don't get the feeling that he loved them. It just doesn't sound like that to me. It sounds to me like more of a paternalistic, oh, I'm better than them, so I have to help them become more than what they are right
Yeah,
now. And also, I don't know, like, I always have a bit of a suspicion about extremely powerful men who
that's true.
love their wives, who happen to be in an extreme situation where they are reliant on them and who they could kill with no problems ever.
Yeah,
And, right? Like, I don't know. My first assumption there is never that, oh, he totally loved his wife so much. Yeah, sure. And he really loved her despite being weak, and he didn't love her because she was weak. Sure, yeah, it's my experience with men in the real
Oh,
world. That happens a lot.
I love how skeptical you are of everything. Keep it up, my little hater. It's
It's just so okay. But even if we take for granted, okay, the amplifiers exist as they are, it feels like in the story, it's presented like, oh, they were just waiting for Alina to need them. But it's like, but in the time that Morozova lived, the Shadowfall did not exist. There was no reason to assume any hero in the future would need them for the specific task of spreading their unique power, which at the point where he lived, this was not something that
and he
existed.
didn't and he didn't believe in it either.
right? He believed all Grisha power was the same, so that would be able, when spread, to just kind of, like vacuums, destroy the artificial darkness that his grandson would one day create through something we are never told about. It's just like, well, he did something and it happened. Yeah, deal with it.
It is shown in the Netflix series, actually. And when I watched that happen, I was like, wait, did I ever explain in the books? I don't remember. In the Netflix series,
like, what is it in the series?
If I remember correctly, do not name me down on this. He, and they show the time change by him having long hair. He is, I think, in love with a person, and she gets killed by some soldiers. And in a fit of rage of trying to revive her or whatever, he creates the Shadow Fold because he's like, he tries, it doesn't work. She was an innocent woman, and they were like, she was a Grisha or something like that. Or was she even a Grisha? I don't know. And then he's like, I love you, and then he makes.
Okay, that's also bad. Like, I think that's also bad.
You're supposed to feel sympathetic for the poor man because it happened on accident.
No, but I'm just thinking on the metaphysical implications of this, right?
Yeah.
Are we implying he can just, like, it's worse to imagine that, oh, he can just do that. Like, his normal
can just make the fold,
but he can not undo it? If it was just his normal powers, why would he not be able to undo it? That seems stupid. I
think the implication was that he tried to use Merzost and it didn't work, and then he got really angry, and then because he has shadow powers, he managed to create the fold.
But in the book, Bagra makes it sound like he's trying to imitate Morozova's experiments, right? It's like, and somehow it goes wrong, and the price he pays for it is the Shadow Fold. Which brings me to another complaint I have, which is that Merzost makes no sense in how people are supposedly punished for using magic that is against the laws of nature. Because we have this incredible part where Alina is
dividing by zero. That's why it's illegal.
Not even that. I'm specifically focusing on the consequences where she's like, the Darkling was punished for trying to access the power at the heart of the making of the world or whatever, and it created the fold, and Morozova was punished for his experiments by the cruel irony that he would have to kill his daughter to get the third amplifier, and it's like, these are not the same. These are not congruent at all. What we have this guy doing supposedly evil magic for forever. So long that apparently even his semen was infected, and the baby he had with his wife had cool shadow powers never seen before, and also developed into a real asshole of a woman, but this might be his parenting and not the evil magic consequences. Let's be fair. But also,
I'm blaming him.
How is this, like, how is reviving dead animals and turning them into amplifiers resulting only in having a kid with cool-ass shadow powers who don't seem to harm her and make her almost immortal and just make her really fucking cool? Yeah. But also, the Darkling suffers visible, harrowing consequences from just making a few shadow monsters who aren't even really alive. They're just more, like, physically manifesting shadows. That doesn't seem fair. I don't know what he was doing in the middle of Ravka before he made the fold, but I feel like it probably was not worse than Morozova killing and reviving things all over the place. So, that also seems out of proportion. Unless, of course, it's not actually about doing the wrong kind of magic. It's just about doing it badly, which is a possibility also. Like, maybe the problem isn't that the Darkling, tried to do something that's forbidden. He's just bad at it. It's possible.
I mean, it's the same way he fumbles Alina. He's so bad at it. No, I mean, I think we talked about this previously, where it's like, how do we even describe Merzost?
Yeah.
At which point is something not allowed to exist? And like, Bagra looks at, what was his name? David looks at him, and Elena's like, oh, she doesn't like him because he reminds her of Morozova, and then like his urge to learn and to experiment, and I say that's just being a scientist. So that's like, okay, she's anti science, I guess. She doesn't want people to experiment. At which point would a David cross over into actual Merzost? Is it just because it's connected to life force and that kind of stuff? Like, at which point is science wrong and starts to turn into magic? In that regard, like dark magic, not just magic, dark magic.
Yeah.
To me, it feels very weird, and it's interesting that in the couple of times where this is like hinted at, we even have David, this character, being like, no, it was just science. But at the same time, he also at one point goes, oh no, he used Merzost. It's like, pick.
What do you mean?
Decide. Like
that's also the thing. Like, in all their conversation, when I read the first books, I was always like, oh, their expression of the making at the heart of the world as this force is very metaphorically. Like, it's a belief they have. It's like their version of like a god. Like, they believe it's there, they believe it has intention, they believe there are rules on how to interact with it, and that Merzost is breaking those rules and you get punished if you do it. And I thought that was metaphorical. But the longer you go in the books, it feels like it's not a metaphor and that it's true. At which point, what?
It's... You can't pull that move.
Right? I also think that you cannot come at me with this. It's also with the whole, oh, you have to be punished for your transgressions, but like, I feel like Morozova is like 100% profit. Like, I don't see where he was punished at any point. When he used evil magic to revive his daughter got like an extra life, new game plus, greater stats. Like, her children all have like a second life that they carry around with them. And clearly, they also have plot armor because that line survived through a war-torn country until present day.
One thing I was wondering, and this happened when I read the book for the first time already, was how come the first daughter's child didn't already use up that extra life? Like, what was the condition for this one extra life being, like, used up? You know what I mean?
It's also, how come this extra... Like, are we supposed to imagine that these people always only had one child that got this extra life? Could we assume that they had several children and, like, actually there's not just one amplifier running around, it's like it multiplies. There's like one for all of them. Like, they had multiple children and, But I think my biggest gripe is that, like, if you revive someone with evil magic, they should have less than a whole life. Like, I feel like, and their descendants should also have less than a whole life, because technically
they should be cursed.
Should have been,
actually,
right? They should have been dead technically, if we think about fate, they should have been dead. If the universe has rules, then technically these people should not be there. So really, the world should be antagonistic towards them. They should not.
Yeah.
Mal should not be a magical Disney princess who has a connection to all living things, is what I mean to say.
Yeah. Because that would have been an adequate, well, not adequate, but that would have been more of a punishment for Morozova to be like, well, now your bloodline is cursed. you know, because
right? Like, your
he
daughter's
himself,
alive, but you
yeah.
feel like everyone who looks at her is like, oh, there's something wrong with her. I don't like this. This feels bad.
It's like, congratulations, you fucked with the rules of the universe. Now one of your daughters has shadow powers that corrupt her, and the other one is cursed for life.
Right,
And
and all her
afterwards, and
descendants
afterwards, and
afterwards.
afterwards.
Right? It's
But yeah.
I remember reading it the first time and going, why does he have an extra life? Like,
Yeah.
how is there
It
an
doesn't make
extra on
sense.
top? There should be less than everyone else. He shouldn't have an extra. That's a reward. You should go around reviving people all the time.
It literally
Extra
says
lives everywhere.
It literally says Mal had possessed 2 lives, but only one was rightfully his. Okay, the other one was stolen. Yeah, an inheritance wrought from Merzost. Snatched from the making at the heart of the world. It was the force that had animated Morozova's daughter when her human life had gone, the power that had reverberated through Mal's bones. His blood had been thick with it, and that purloined bit of creation was what had made him such a remarkable trekker. It had bound him to every living thing. Like calls to like. La 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 la. The life stolen by Morozova had reached its end. This was the price the world had demanded for balance.
So just give it back, not like pay more, pay. See, that's what I mean. How come? What the fuck did the Darkling do for the world to be like, yeah, you deserve a Shadowfall? What was he doing? It's also
yeah.
Describe...
Later on, it's like Morozova couldn't have known that the person to unlock the secrets of his amplifiers wouldn't be some ancient Grisha. He couldn't have known that it would all come down to 2 orphans from Karamzin. He didn't know shit, mind you. I'm sorry. Like, what do you mean?
It's also, the way that the book is like, yeah, it was an ironic punishment that the Darkling got the Fold because in there his powers were useless. And it's like, okay. That feels like a weird way to frame this punishment. Like, I'm all for the punishment for Merzos being unfairly heaped upon people who did nothing wrong. I think seems not unintuitive that the world, that, you break the laws of the universe and something breaks and something requires something to balance it out and you're not necessarily the one to pay the price. That's fair, but it seems like the Darkling's the only one who's ever paid, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I also add, because
Yes.
I was just like, wait, I didn't write this down, I had to just check in our chat whether or not this happened in the third book. But the thing with the Darkling being like naked and going, I will enter the fold, looking at Alina, I thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
In my mind, I was like, oh, is this like the sexy scene starting? I will enter the fold. I was like, huh?
I mean, he has already fucked Ravka, so I guess, like, it's not true.
He transitioned Ravka. He was like, you're my bitch now. I give you... Okay. But yeah, it's... I mean...
But even with those things, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then Bagra also, on top of all this, drops the lore of, like, powerful Grisha could survive anything. Even though my father was thrown into a river, he could have survived so much. And it's like, okay, but your dad was a healer. Like, the Darkling and Alina have no healing skills whatsoever. If someone shoots them, what would they do? How does glowing or being dark influence if you're bleeding out? Like, I feel like, Bagra, you're not good at this.
It's because we haven't previously been shown that Grisha have some unnatural self-healing powers or whatever. And even for people who are corporalki, like the Heartrenders, even they're like, I'm sorry, it's just basic corporalki training. I don't know how to heal properly. So Bagra's just full of shit. I'm sorry, I don't believe anything.
I mean, it's not really her fault, because, like, it's the author's fault. None of it makes sense. all of it just happens to facilitate the story, which isn't even good. There's a lot I would be willing to forgive if at least it felt good while reading it. If while reading it I would go, I'm not sure I think all of this makes sense, but the ride is really fun, so I'm not even spending that much time criticizing it, because I don't think it's more important to rigorously keep your world building straight than to write an entertaining story. I think it's fine if sometimes things don't make sense. And again, I also think if she wanted these random good and bad things to happen, she should have stuck to a more soft magic system with the fairy tale vibes of the prologue and the epilogue. But she wanted the Grisha powers to be the small science, even though they don't make sense as that, because if you think about it, basically all Grisha break basic laws of the universe, aka the conservation of energy. Where's their magic coming from? They get more energized by using magic. That makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
It makes no goddamn sense.
The first thing you said was like, oh, you can suspend this illusion of, like, whatever belief works for the first 2 books. But in the 3rd book, it's really hard to keep that up yourself as the reader, because it starts to get more and more confusing and just like,
It's also just, if your characters spend a lot of time talking about the logic of how powers work, you start thinking about it too, and then you start noticing how it makes no sense. I understand that for the story you thought the Shadowfold was cool, and I agree. It's cool, it's a fun idea, but...
Yeah, no.
It's also just... Again, if you're acting as if this is a real world in which things follow the small science and logic, how do we explain Alina? Bagra and the Darkling have cool shadow powers because her dad did evil magic and the world punished him by making his daughter a sick-ass goth. Okay. Okay. Cool. Why does Alina have sun powers? I don't think... Like, the Fold was payment for something fucked up the Darkling did. Alina, like... The world wouldn't create a fix for that. Why would the animating force at the center of the universe care if the Fold has an economic impact on Ravka and makes it not viable as a country anymore? Why would it care about that? Yeah. Why would it create a Sun Summoner, the only one of her kind ever, just because this is your problem? What?
I feel...
No.
I feel there would have been the need to be like, oh, there were Sun Summoners, but maybe they were hunted down by the Darkling because, or by one of the previous Darklings, to like, because they could fight against the Fold, whatever, that kind of stuff, and then the Darkling realized at some point, fuck, this method isn't really working. I think the next Sun Summoner, hopefully, once they pop up somewhere soon, I will do it differently this time. I'll befriend that Sun Summoner. That Sun Summoner will become my buddy, my bestie, and then, we'll see. But going with this, because it's like this myth, right? Going with this wish fulfillment of, oh my god, there needs to be this other thing, this reversal of shadow in order to save us, just because that's something that people wish for, because it keeps them fighting, like going on fighting, doesn't mean that
it should exist.
It just happens,
It's also just because the story also, in a way that the reader is supposed to believe that this is true of the world, treats it as if Alina and the Darkling are a matched set. Their powers are meant, like they're one of a kind. Right? Which It's also a bit rude because even with 2 amplifiers, the Darkling kind of, wipes the floor with Alina. I feel a bit bad for her.
I mean, he had a bit more time to train, you know?
Right, but still, he doesn't even have 1 amplifier. It feels a little rude that he's so much like better. True, but then again, stop talking about how they're, matched and how they're only... Again, his mom's in the background, you are not a matched set, there's another woman.
Yeah.
And if the Darkling had more unprotected sex, there could be even more of those around, apparently. So...
If he pulled...
Don't know about the matching there, but, fine.
The Darkling being like, okay, we need some more shadow
It's really
babies.
funny. The Darkling having, this whole plan laid out where he has, several kids and places them in different countries around the world, taking them over to attain, world governance, but, the kids eventually are like, I hate you, Dad, and do their own thing, and, it's a whole family drama. That would be fun. But again, it's it feels so half-baked. There are many things where I'm like, okay, this could work, but the more she explains of the lore, the worse it gets. In the first book, you're like, okay, we're going on a fun journey. And in the second book, you're like, okay. And in the third book, you're like, no, I don't believe any of this anymore. I'm sorry. You tried too hard to explain all of it. It also makes the world feel tiny. How is all of this the fault of one fucking family? How is this all just one dad, his daughter, and his grandson? How is this just 3 people ruining it for everyone? Are you kidding me?
Listen, I know I said I do blame Morozova a little bit for how Bagra turned out, but I would say we can blame it on one person. It's Bagra. No, but yeah, it does.
We can blame
the way
her
where
mom.
Yeah, she doesn't even have a name. We can blame the mom,
right? Her sister also doesn't have a name.
True. It feels a little bit. It makes it so small in a similar way, what they did with the Star Wars sequels, where they were like, oh my god,
everyone's related to someone.
Rey is actually a secret Palpatine. It's like, this stuff isn't needed. We can just keep it as it is. The idea of going, oh, the Darkling is so fucking ancient. It's never been several Darklings. It's always been one
guy.
That's fun. That's cool. Because it would be way more questionable if it's every single Darkling in existence decided to go, yeah, that's my job now. None of the Darklings going, no, I don't want that. So that's a good thing. But to then go, oh yeah, this is the fault of why are there no other Darklings with the knowledge that exists from the first thing? Why did nobody else commit Merzost?
Right? It's
you
also
can't tell
just
me nobody else did.
What do you mean the faraway offspring of this guy happened to grow up in a tiny town in the shadow of the Ark that's in that the Firebird was supposed... Never mind the fact that an illustration in a children's book hundreds of years after this man lives has an illustration that is so accurate that the angles of the Ark are the same as the remnants that are left in the real world. What? Are there no other Arks?
I love that throughout the book, Alina is always like, this would be too convenient if this was true. But I mean, come on, it fits so nicely and well together. And then it actually does. The first time I read this, I was fully expecting for them to not find anything and just realize something else about the amplifiers. No, seriously, I thought this would be too fucking convenient, right? But for them to actually find the Firebird, I was like, Hmm.
Yeah, right. It's really funny.
Hmm.
I everything about it's just the again, if they didn't talk so much about the logic of the world building in the story, it wouldn't upset me so much. But it's so none of it really works together. It's
Yeah.
broken in so many places. Why were Mal and Alina born so close geographically if you consider there's a whole world in which a sun summoner could have been born? She
Yeah.
happened to
Yeah.
be born in a little village right next to another village where Mal lived, and then close to the Firebird, and then they ended up in the same orphanage, even though wars were raging, and like their whole families got killed. Uh,
Yeah. The thing is,
Hello?
the thing is, couldn't Mal and Alina have just randomly ended up at the same orphanage? Or call it
Right.
fate, call it him, call it his amplifier juice, being like pulling these two people into the same orphanage. And then she remembered as a child he would always talk about the two arches or the two
Pillars,
mills,
yeah.
Dvasoba, whatever. And going, oh my god, and then she remembers that, and he's like, oh, what? Did I do this as a child? Oh my god. And then they go there. The convenience of them both being from the same region and everything.
It
I don't
I think
know.
you can only do this if you actually make fate a relevant part of your story.
Yeah.
It's it would be more acceptable if it was like, no, these amplifiers were meant for Alina. They were meant to
Yeah.
destroy the fold because fate is like a closed circle. It knows what will happen next because all things have already happened and will happen that
Yeah.
way again. You can play with determinism, that's fine, but then commit to it. Don't do this half-assed shit and then have your characters all be like, it's not magic, it's the small
Yeah.
science because magic isn't real.
You could have gone something like Morozova being like, oh my god, what have I done? In the moment they push him into the bridge where he just falls over and presumably dies, where he's like in his last wish he's like, oh please, blah blah blah, and then while giving up his life, I don't
Or
care,
it's fine if he was like
something.
driven by visions. If like Bagra was like, listen, my dad was brilliant, but he was also kind of crazy. He kept talking about these things that made
Yeah.
no sense. But
Yeah.
then, like 100 years afterwards, some of them did make sense to me, and I didn't know if I was just seeing things or if he actually
Yeah.
like something. Just be like, yeah, super powerful Grisha are just like closer to fate, so they like are more guided by it. They know more about, like, they have intuition that something. Like, if you want fate to be a player in your story, that's fine. That's super fine. But then also do it, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's also like, okay, I can see if like Alina's fate was always to have her powers and then to lose them, and then it would feel less random if there was foreshadowing that, like, yeah, it's a closed loop. You have to lose your powers again in order for the next guy. Something. There's so much broken in this story. I don't know how you would fix it that easily, but again, the third book makes me look at the whole thing and go, what was the point? None of this works together. What are
There
we doing?
is, yeah. It doesn't feel like there's an overarching moral story, which there doesn't have to be. There doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It's nice, I will say. I do like an overarching moral story, because it feels a lot more satisfying going into the end of something where you're like, oh, that's what this was all about.
Right.
Because Alina's journey also doesn't feel like it ended in this satisfying
I
manner.
if right
It feels
if
like she has turned into the woman carrying the sack and not the
if
bird
you're
flying away.
yeah, if your theme is that things are circular, which I mean the books sure feel like it because we always end and begin in the same places, we're doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
But then also just like we already have the beautiful setup of like Bagra having had shitty parents, one who was neglectful and the other one who was afraid of her, and her being a bad parent to her son, and her son being a terrible parent to the whole of Ravka with the way he, tried to go, whatever. We have
Mm-hmm.
cycles of abuse present as ideas. We could have done something with it and then be like, oh, we want to
Yeah.
break the cycles of abuse. Okay, but if we're breaking cycles, then why is Alina back at the beginning, right where she started, and everything's the same? She's just nicer to the kids than her, teachers were.
Yeah.
Cool. This makes me, it's very satisfying, totally.
It feels like surely reading it, it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of cute. But it also reads more as like, listen, previously we had an older generation of people that were still really fucking like fucked up from the war and all of the horrible things that happened, conditioned to be like, okay, no, we can't coddle kids. And now we have new, younger people with a changed mindset on how to raise kids taking over. Like it doesn't sound like it's such an emotional feat because this is a normal thing that happens.
Yeah.
Usually, unless, great tragedy strikes that changes a society fundamentally, the younger generation tends to be more, how would I say, more liberal and nicer to kids because the overall, what would I say, the overall societal thought of, hey, kids are actually young adults in the way that what we do to them will impact them
Children are
greatly.
people, yeah.
Right? Like, it's not like at some point, boom, a kid turns into an adult or an older teenager and everything that happened to them before the age of 10 disappears. So
Yeah.
it feels like just a natural progression of what would happen when somebody new takes over who is younger. Right? So, like, it doesn't even feel, not to like be mean and be like, oh, Alina isn't doing anything special, but not to like, it's not that special.
Right. It's just, I mean, even with the destruction of the fold, it's like, it's such an obvious imagery of like healing the wounds of the past that like past generations inflicted, and now as the new
Mm-hmm.
generation, you're doing better, you're, fixing what.
Yeah.
But like, no. Again, there's
The,
no real through line. It's.
the funniest thing for me still is in the description of like healing the fold and all the new sun summoners walking around,
Mm.
is that they literally have to like blast the shadows away, and in places where it doesn't completely overlap, you still have like these little shadow clouds like swirling above the desert. And I guess I see what you wanted, like what kind of sort of visual picture she wanted to paint, but the thought to me is so funny of them going, this destroyed our world and like completely fucked us up, but I'm too lazy to get rid of this little cloud over there. I'm just gonna go to my next quadrant of
It,
fold and blast it away.
it also just feels like, oh, if Alina had just like made two beams with her hand and crisscrossed them a little bit, then it could
Yeah.
have also worked, but she just never did that. So she didn't know this was like an
She
easy
should have
way to
just,
get rid of the
yeah.
fold. She could have just spent the last year on duty, like slowly,
It's like the
erasing
power
the
wash
fold.
simulator, just.
Yeah, right? Like she could just slowly be going up and down. And it's not glamorous, but the
Yeah.
Darkning's like, well, good job, babe. It's like, oh, jeez.
It
I don't know.
is. It is really
It's
funny,
something
and
so
it
silly about it.
again makes you question the overall nature of the fold itself. Because Elena does go through the fold, like blasting
Right?
through with her son
But that
when
wasn't
she goes
enough.
through with Nikolai, and then when she has the sun explosion on the skiff in the first book. You could
I
argue that the original power source, perhaps, of the fold was gone, being the Darkling. But how do you even know
but
when
that
when
feels
you're
cheap.
how do you even know when you're inside the fold and you make a circular sun shape that space of fold is now suddenly gone? Because
Right? Because the darkness isn't.
once you take your sun away, you still shouldn't be able to see shit because all the other darkness
The
around you
lights are
doesn't
getting
let
blocked
light
out,
through.
right? It's,
Anyways, things to consider.
there is. I think overall for the books, there is a. I mean, it makes sense. After you mentioned that in an interview, she said that Shadow and Bone was the first book she ever finished and how happy she
Mm-hmm.
was about that.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, books 2 and 3 feel like her desperately scrambling to try and tell a story continuation of what she set up in the
Yeah.
first book. It feels like so much of that just got brought in the second book. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that while she wrote the first book, she knew that Mal was such a great tracker because he had magical power and a magical connection to all
Mm-hmm.
life because he was a descendant of the Darkling's aunt who was revived by his grandpa via magic.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? I don't think
I
that was there.
It does feel very much like she pitched the book, she got the book contract,
Yeah, yeah.
and then maybe while the first one was published, maybe while it was going through the editing process, she got the contract for the two other book, or maybe even just for the second book, with like, oh, maybe we'll give you a third one, we'll see. So she really had to scramble and be like, oh, fuck, fuck, fuck,
Yeah.
to make this work and make this be better and grander. Um, and then they were like, yeah, and you're getting a third book to wrap it up. And she's like, ooh, okay. Uh, Allegedly, this is just...
No, I don't think that's how it was because the third one doesn't feel like someone who had too many ideas that they had to put into a third book. It felt like someone who had no fucking ideas and was like, what
Yeah,
else
no, that's what I meant.
could I
It's
make
like,
them
okay,
do?
it's like, okay, you're getting a third book, and she's like, oh, or they were like, oh, you're getting two more books, and she was like, how
Yeah,
do I, how do I structure
the
this for
third
two
book
more books?
it feels just so random. I mean, the second book is mostly the Nikolai show. Let's be very, very honest about
And
that.
that's why it is
And
so good.
and the third book, she was like, "Fuck, I can't make this the Nikolai show. This is supposed to be the Alina show. Become a bat and go away."
The way Nikolai just gets benched like this is so
It's so
funny to
funny.
me. She realized this man was too powerful.
He was
He
too
was
good.
too charismatic. People liked him over Mal too much, and she was like, "No, I already have to deal with the fact that people like the Darkling more than Mal." So she's like, "Okay, this one, I can't take the Darkling out of the equation, so Nikolai just has to go."
It's another thing I wrote down as like a point for the whole series is that like the Darkling is a really bad villain or a very badly utilized villain. In a 3-book series in which he is your big bad, it is totally fine for him to first be introduced as like, oh, he's a mentor, and then you find out your mentor is evil and that eventually you have to fight him. Good idea.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. However, there are too many points over 3 books in which he literally is in the same place she is and she manages to get away. He's so bad at it. The more they get away, the less scary he becomes. He's not a force of nature to be reckoned with. He's not this evil, untouchable guy. It's like, he's just a dude who is following her around and has like a lot of mental problems and a lot of power to make that other people's problems. But he's not really scary anymore. He's just a weirdo. Like,
the thing is, I agree with you. The thing is, there was the potential to make him more unhinged and go kind of, Daenerys last couple of episodes, Game of Thrones, sort of crazy. Because the book starts with like the little, like, oh, Saint blah blah, there's this girl under the ground, and there is the Darkling saying he wants his sun summoner return. Did she even italicize that one? Let me see, find it. No, she didn't. I just pointed out to myself. So you could have, and there is like him doing the bombings and trying to rat out the Apret and that kind of stuff. But then he turns into such a, sorry for saying this, soy boy during the first ghost apparition thing. I hate the word soy boy, right? But what else am I supposed to call him?
I think it's like, so funny how into her she is. He was like, okay, fuck this teenager for like 2 books, and then she almost killed him, and he was like, Fuck, I'm into this. Okay.
It's just so weird in the way that she should have gone make him completely crazy. But she wanted to have this ending where he's like, "Oh,
Someone to remember me."
call my name, Alexander," and then he dies, and he's
That's
like,
so
"Oh,
funny.
bury me properly, like don't let them take my body." And it's like, you could still have had that, and still make him go like seem crazy and unhinged and like really like could make me a villain. Shut the fuck up, just
The thing is,
make him an
like,
actual villain.
it's not just about him being crazy. The problem is just that he's too present. If he's that powerful, she shouldn't keep escaping. Every other story handles this better by just being like, hey, the main bad guy has a bunch of goons. Some of them are really scary and threatening. And, he sends them after you because he has to rule a country. He has stuff to do. He can't always be the one running after you himself. He just shows up all the time. It looks like he has nothing else on his plate, and that's just silly. Like, he just is like, he's so silly. In a bad way. It's like, what is this clown show?
Yeah. In the second book, he has his little squad with Ivan, and the rest of the Grisha. And that sort of bloodhound squad situation is missing in the third book. Like, give me someone actually dedicated searching for Alina. Instead, she gets found out by a random squad, like, running around in the neighborhood.
And, like, his goons, the only one who's named is Ivan, and Ivan gets killed at the beginning of the second book unceremoniously, which, like, it's kind of funny, but kind of funny is not great for your dramatic tension, Like, sometimes what is funny in the moment is bad for the overall story.
It does take your adrenaline out of it real quick. If you're like,
right?
You shouldn't I heard when the Darkling died. That shouldn't happen at this very stressful moment.
It's also like when the Darkling gets shot, you should be like, oh my god, he can get shot, and not be like, right? It's just, it's not. It's also, I remember the first time I read the third book and I got to the end, I was kind of speed reading, I wasn't paying that much attention. I was just like, oh, I want to.
Yeah.
So I had first misread, and I thought Alina's powers had, like, gone away from her because she destroyed the fold. Like, she had traded her powers for the destruction of the fold.
Yeah.
And not like, oh, her powers got distributed and then those people managed to just unmake the fold somehow. Which I had thought made more sense. And now reading it again, I was like, wait, what?
I have to say, and I mean, I already exposed myself one time here by saying, oh, I read the sentence completely wrong. But I did have to read the part where Alina loses her powers twice. Because it was like, great feeling. And then, okay, now she's exhausted. Now, wait, at this point she loses her powers? And I had to go back and was like, yeah, this is actually it.
Yeah, I had misremembered. I really thought she had let out like a really cool blast, and then the fold was like disintegrating by itself, and then I was like, oh no, it's just the other guy. Oh.
Yeah, okay. I had to reread it. I was like, huh? And
I thought it was like
something this dramatic should not have to be reread.
Yeah, I also think people should not be like, wait, what happened about the big dramatic thing?
Maybe call me dumb. You were allowed to do that.
I mean, also, like, I think in our defense, when you're that far into the third book, you just kind of want to be done. So you might not be paying the most attention ever. So I feel like this is reasonable to happen. If she wanted me to be paying attention, the preceding 300 pages should have been more attention-grabbing, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she also goes and says, I'm ruination, which made me roll my eyes again. I was like, ugh.
It's like, no, it's #girl power. you have to make, like, 20 gift sets with, like, I am ruination on them.
Yeah, especially because here it goes, oh my god, I burned, I was consumed, I was a living star, I was combustion, I was a new sun born to shatter air and eat the earth. The world trembled, dissolved, crashed in on itself, and then the power was gone. My eyes flew open. Thick darkness surrounded me. What do you mean? You're a sun! You shatter the air and eat the earth! This doesn't make any sense. I think that's why I had to reread it again, because I was like, what do you mean thick darkness? And I had to go back
Yeah,
and be
especially
like,
with the shattering bit. It's like, oh, so you didn't shatter anything. Nothing happened.
And then everything exploded into white fire. Apparently it did not, Alina. Apparently it did not. Because you're still thick darkness.
There's also this funny bit while I was going through my notes that, like, the way Bagra tells her story implies that 1,000 years ago, Ravka had, like, approximately the same borders as it does in the present time, which is very funny to me, because if you know anything about European history, that's not usually how it goes. There's some classic European tropes, and that is the borders are different every century, minimum. Probably every decade. There's just shit going on all the time. But, I mean, at least here, Europe has, like, 3 countries, which is Norway, Russia, and, a Dutch island somewhere across the sea. And then there's China, so...
Don't forget the actual Irish on the... What was it?
On the Wandering Isle.
On the Wandering Isle.
They're too far away. I was thinking of, like, a mainland. I don't actually know enough about Irish history if they had, like, a lot of border changes.
I wrote down in my notes, because I remembered last time I was like, oh, that was all, like, kind of weirdly racist with the way these cultures perceive Grisha. I was like, is this anti-Irish that they thought that the Grisha blood is a cure-all and that they just bled people out like a pig? I was like, I don't know. Did the Irish do something to deserve this sort of treatment?
It seems pretty extreme even compared to the other ones.
I mean, at least the Fjordans just killed him. But right? the Wandering Isle people, they just take their blood.
It's just strange, man. It's like, wow, everyone hates people with magic so much, even though, realistically, at least some people would be like, oh, dope, you have magic? This makes my survival way easier.
It also feels overall weird, in the way Ravka is structured as, like, this certain supposed country that's very patriotic and like very based on national pride, but a lot of the Grisha in Ravka are not Ravkan because they are refugees from other countries.
Right.
So it's like, okay, how does this connect? Like, how does this compute?
There's also the disconnect of so many Grisha, even in the squad, being from other countries, and the books being so fiercely uninterested in everything that's not Ravka. It's all like, no, we need to preserve the Ravkan throne, we need to bring back power to the royal family, we can't let Darkling get away with this, we need to restore the status quo. It's like, wow, I'm so on your side, Alina. You're doing such cool things.
It's like this High School Musical song, like, stick to the status quo. Yeah, that's what it feels like. That's what the Darkling listens to every single time he's doing his scheming.
No, he wants to change the world. He has revolutionary ambitions.
It's what the king listens to.
He wants to make it worse. Like, I'm not saying for the better, but he does want to change things. Whereas Alina is like, wow, I need to get this rapist back on the throne. It's for the good of the people. Yay.
Yay.
Right? I think... Alina, you're so lucky that Nikolai exists. Otherwise, you would have had to examine some very nationalist tendencies in yourself.
I think Kaol and Alina would be great friends. Anyway.
If they were from the same country, yes.
Yeah, she ain't cute and exotic enough for him to like her if she were from a different country, that's true.
No. She's not brown enough.
I just remember that Nesrin also was POC.
Yes. Kale only has relationships that last with women of color.
Aelin is white.
Aelin is very white.
She's
but
skin.
He also does not take the breakup well.
No, he does not.
This is not about Kale.
We did talk about Kale in the book boyfriend video. We did have an extensive session there. But yeah, overall, this third book, if we look, because we're talking about the overall series, it does leave a bitter taste in your mouth. And not a bittersweet taste.
No.
More like a... Aw. That's a shame.
I think especially because of the third book, the series really is much less than the sum of its parts. You can read the first one and the second one and be like, oh, we're going somewhere. Like, there are issues, but like, there's some good ideas. I'm having fun. It's okay.
Definitely.
But the third one is like, you were wrong to hope. You were wrong to think we were going somewhere. We were never going anywhere. We were going back to the orphanage. Back to being powerless. We're going back to nothing. Like, cool.
I think, depending on the age of the person, I would still recommend this series. Because I think it's still, like, fun to read in a sense. But I think if a person is older than, let's say, 18, it'd be like... you can if you want to. It's not a must-read.
I think, honestly, from what you said, I would say, don't read it, just watch the Netflix show and just imagine how that might continue. I don't think you have to bother with reading this.
Yeah.
Like, I have read worse things, but given that there is a Netflix show that seems to improve generally upon a lot of the flaws of the book, I'm like, just watch that, man.
I think the Netflix show is not perfect in any sense, like especially the way that they tried to integrate the crows into the overall story makes it at some point feel like it falls apart a little bit, because you if you did not read the books, you sit there and you're like, why are these people here? This does not feel like it connects. And then they make it connect by saying, instead of saying, oh, we're sending you on a heist to get the Yorda recipe, to get the scientist, they're like, we want the Sun Summoner. We have heard there's a Sun Summoner on the other side. So if you want the big money, get us the Sun Summoner. And that is how the crows actually get moving. And they do manage to, at some point, abduct, quote-unquote, Alina. But it's less an abduction and more of a, we realized what sort of fucking problems we are now in, so we're on the good side. Come with us. And then the crows have some more crowy scenes in the second season where it's like, oh yes, this feels so good, this is the vibe. But it's like constantly interrupted by the Alina plot happening on the same, like on the other side. It makes you go, oh, this is kind of weird. And then the writing isn't that stellar. There's some scenes that make you go, oh no, oh, this is really sad. And some changes, which I support, like Mal becoming the new Stormhond and leaving, Nikolai and Helena actually getting married. Inej, she has the conversation with Kaz, of like, you know, you can have me if this doesn't work out. And she actually goes with Mal. She's like, you know what? I'm gonna be on that fucking ship. I'm gonna fly around. I'm gonna help people in need. 'Cause you apparently don't want to. So it's like, I think you should watch the Netflix show. I think that's cool. It's an addition to the books, I would say, because both are
I
kind of
I will
you know.
admit I forgot for a second that it was a crossover thing.
Yeah, it was, and that changed a couple
And that
things
the moment I heard
tremendously.
that it was a crossover thing, all my interest disappeared because I was like, I don't think these storylines work together at all because these are different genres and I don't think they
Yeah,
mix well. So,
the funniest thing ever still that the show brought to us is Kaz and the Darkling meeting, and, and the Darkling being like, and I think Kaz, no, does he have the goat with him? No, I think that's a different scene. But he like does like a smoke bomb and disappears, and the Darkling's like, huh? And that's still the funniest thing that came out of the whole show. That interaction, at least for me. Um, but yeah, all the scenes that were just the Shadow and Bone cast, very fun. All the scenes that were just the Six of Crows, very fun. As soon as they
the
overlapped,
mix.
it doesn't
I see.
vibe. Yeah, to me, it doesn't vibe that well. And especially the
I
second season has some weak writing. I have to admit, it has some weak writing there.
I see. I see. I
Unfortunately.
would say you should first read Six of Crows. And if you're already like, the writing's okay, but I'm not excited about it. Like, it's not I'm not obsessed with it. Don't bother with the Grisha trilogy. It is worse on every level. Any gripe you could have with Six of Crows, you would have way more with the Grisha trilogy. So many parts
Yeah.
of these books are weak as fuck. We spend so much time traveling across the countryside, and none of it is interesting. The In a book in which we travel to so much, most of it is so uninteresting. It like when they go through the caves, there are some caves that are like super cool, but it's like the generic, like, oh, this is the video game level with the ice cave. This is the video game level with the cave full of, emeralds or whatever. So it's
Diamonds,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's just like, okay, whatever. It feels. I cannot imagine Ravka as an actual place. There is no real character there. And also, I forgot to mention this, the third book brings back the classic of the Grisha trilogy, random Russian sentences that then a character needs to translate to us, as if they're speaking more Russian than the rest of them were already speaking. Incredible.
It is really funny. I would say as well, if we were to compare them, that also just the characters themselves and the main character are stronger in Six of Crows than in Shadow and Bone, which again is normal and appreciated because it's her second series.
It's good when authors get better. It's just
all of that. But yeah, I guess that's also something I could live with. To say, if you just want to get into the universe itself, I would definitely not say, yeah, just start King of Scars, because that just doesn't work. Like, that's the one book you cannot just drop yourself into, because there's too much happening in the other books before you can even touch that. But yeah, I would not say keep away from the series is what I'm trying to say. I would definitely be like, oh,
I wouldn't say it's so bad that you shouldn't read it, but I would also say it is not that good. It is generally popular because Lee Bardugo is generally popular, but Six of Crows is most definitely better. But the Grisha trilogy, man, again with the third book, tanks so hard. If you have a high tolerance for like kind of boring nonsense, you read it. But otherwise, I'd be like, it's kind of overhyped. You don't like you're not missing anything. You do not have to experience FOMO about these books. They're mid to bad is my personal assessment.
Would I say still read it because of Nikolai? I guess it would depend on how the person experiences Six of Crows, whether or not they should go into the rest of that. Yeah, no, but it's because I personally hate it when people go, "Oh my god, this thing is so good." You know, there's this one character that comes up in book 2 or 3, and I'm like, but
Right.
am I
That's
going to
not worth
suffer through
it.
the rest of
Yeah.
it? You know, with Throne of Glass, whenever people ask me, I'm always like, listen, I hate saying this, but it does get significantly better after the second book. You know, um, but I'm like, you still shouldn't. You still don't
But
have to read it. You
it's
know,
like
you're not.
it gets better after the second book, but if you didn't like the first one, then you won't like it either. Like it doesn't get that
Yeah, yeah,
much
yeah,
better. If you're having
yeah. The
fun
vibe
with
is
the first
still.
one and you're like, it definitely gets a bit better, but
Mm-hmm.
if you already dislike it, it's not changing genre. It's
Yeah,
not becoming something significantly different. It'll still
yeah.
be
No, that's
a
true.
story about a cool assassin girl. It's
Yeah.
just,
That's why I'm also like not really that hot on saying, "Oh, you should definitely read the whole series just for this one character," because it's like if you don't like it's
it's also like I don't think The Run of Glass or the Grisha Trilogy offers any kind of character that you don't otherwise get in other
mhm
books. There are fun
mhm
characters in there, but like they're not unique. There are similar
yeah
characters in other better things. So
yeah but yeah I guess that's the overall stance on it. Um, I, you know, rereading this series definitely did change my opinions a little bit, but mostly because I didn't remember as much from,
that's really
like,
funny.
you know, all the stuff that happens. And it also is funny because it shows how much the perception does change from what you perceive or remember to be true, and then rereading it again, having a different mindset. I've said this to you many times. Just having this exchange between the two of us changed how I read books a lot. Um, it didn't change my opinion drastically because I'm looking at it as like, oh yeah, this is a YA book. So
That's true.
I'm like, you know, this isn't the spirit that cuts through water. You know, this is something else.
Not ever. Most things can't be the spirit cuts through
Yeah,
water.
they can. Kima was
I
me.
still can't believe. I mean, I know how Goodreads works, but I still can't believe
Yeah.
Powerless has a higher rating than The Spirit Cuts Through Water. I will never not be mad about this. I will never not be mad. How can this
You have
happen?
you have to create like shadow accounts. It's just
And
really
like
difficult.
and yeah.
To just get powerless down and get the spirit that cuts through water up. But yeah, overall rating of Ruin and Rising for me has not changed. It still is a 2 out of 5. And 90% of that is because Alina loses her powers. I am that petty.
That's
I
really funny.
am.
I mean, for me, it's also a 2 out of 5, but that's just like, it's not good, but it's not
Hmm.
bad enough to be a 1 star. Because I do try
Yeah,
to
no.
keep, like, it relatively balanced. I know some people are like, no, the 5 stars are for, like, the top 99% of books, and,
Mm-hmm.
like, 4 stars is anything else that's good, and 3 stars, like, average, and, like, whatever. But to me, it's like, no, I don't want, like, I want the categories to have some meaning, and if I never use one
Yeah.
of them, so, again, if Powerless is in 1 star, Ruin and Rising is definitely above that.
Yeah.
Heads and Tails, 2 star. Um, yeah, it's not.
I don't remember. I think I also gave Powerless 1 star. I must have. I gave it 0 stars.
If you gave it more, that'd be concerning.
And I would have to rectify this decision immediately. I will check after this recording. um,
uh,
but yeah, no. And overall series enjoyment, I think back in the day I would have said 4 stars. I'm still gonna settle on a 3.54 stars. Um, because I think there's also a lot of nostalgia involved for me. Where it's like,
for
oh, the
when you were 21.
Grishaverse. No, in the sense of that the Grisha Wars was like, or Six of Crows was the first books I read when I got back into reading much. So the Grisha verse itself is just very close to my little easily manipulated heart.
I see.
And it has a little space there, a little safe space that will always stay. So
for me, overall 2-star. Again, the series is less than the sum of its parts. Even if the second book is like a 3-star, the rest it's no.
That's true. You did rate the second book a lot lower than I did, which is fine.
Yeah, I like Nikolai, but not that much. The rest of the book is still there.
Yeah, see, that's what I said. I'm easily swayed by a pretty blonde man.
You love blonde
Anyways.
men.
If
he also had a dog, you'd be head over heels.
He does have a horse in King of Scars, so
That's
it's even better than a dog. Anyways, do you have anything else?
No, I think I've said everything that.
Yeah. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the overall series. You can get it off your chest. Also, if you have watched the Netflix show, feel free to give your thoughts on that. I'd be interested to see it. And we hope that you enjoyed our little Grisha Trilogy walkthrough. I'm not going to say we will never have another Lee Bardugo book ever again, but I think so far this covered most of what we would talk about in this podcast.
Yes.
Because, I mean, the first sequel you gave to me, because you didn't want to read it, we are not going to read Ninth House, and what was the other one? The Familiar. I don't know if we ever are going to read this.
Maybe if she puts out another book where we're both like, oh, I'd be interested. We'll see.
Yeah.
Again, there are so many other books I want to read before
that's the problem.
Pick up another Lee Bardugo.
So for now, this is our soft little goodbye to Lee Bardugo's books. And I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, give us your thoughts and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Goodbye.